Chapter 667. Hua Chenhuan wanted to find an appropriate time to reveal Su Yiyin's pregnancy to Gu Xiaoyang and the others. But in fact, his eagerness to show off didn't allow him to wait too long. The next morning, during the weekly high-level video meeting, many people noticed that their boss had been absent-minded during the meeting. Originally, they wanted to briefly report the work at hand so that their boss could spend more time with their lady boss. But now, they suddenly became nervous. They were afraid that they would accidentally poke their boss's sore spot and unfortunately become cannon fodder. Just when everyone was trembling with fear that they would be caught doing something wrong, a familiar figure suddenly flashed by outside the camera. Then, their boss had a plate of exquisite snacks and a glass of freshly squeezed juice in his hand. It was Madam. The employees on the other side of the screen thought at the same time. This was not the first time that Su Yiyin saw Hua Chenhuan holding a meeting with his company's employees. Hua Chenhuan's company was run by Gu Xiaoyang and a few other backbones, so nothing would go wrong. But no matter how dignified a boss was, it was unrealistic for him to be absent from work for a month or two and ignore everything in the company. So basically, Hua Chenhuan would hold a meeting with them every few days to get a general understanding of the company's operating situation and to solve some important matters that they couldn't make decisions on. But usually at this time, Su Yiyin would also come over to deliver some things, but she rarely appeared on camera. Hua Chenhuan also didn't like the company's employees peeping at his wife. But today, when Su Yiyin put down the snacks and was about to leave, Hua Chenhuan grabbed her hand. "Did you make this?" Su Yiyin was slightly startled. She quickly shook her head and explained, No, Aunt Fong made it. I tasted it and thought that you might like it, so I brought it to you." Although the people outside the screen couldn't see Su Yiyin's face, they could hear her voice. Upon hearing that, he instantly turned into a lemon juice. Although the young madam didn't make it herself, the dessert looked delicious. When other people were working, their wives would bring them food, ask about their well-being, and be considerate. When they were working, they only had cold nutrient solutions to accompany them. This difference, cough. Actually, it wasn't that big. It was just a short distance away. But how many wives like Madam could one find in this world? Sob, working so hard and being abused to the point that the single dogs shut themselves up? Hua Chenhuan's tense expression eased a little. She reached out to touch Su Yiyin's belly and asked gently, "Did the child disturb you today?" The company executives? Children? Madam's relative has already given birth to a child? Su Yiyin was also stunned by her question. She immediately grabbed a certain someone's hand and rebuked. "What are you doing? It's only the size of a pearl now. Are you saying that you're making a fuss because you're afraid it'll hurt me?" Hua Chenhuan, the company executives on the other end of the screen, Hua Chenhuan, who had failed to show off and was instead despised, was embarrassed. She coughed lightly and was about to say something to remedy the situation when she heard a cry of surprise from the other end. "Child, is Madam pregnant?" This cry could be said to be earth-shattering, and the company's exclamations instantly rose and fell. Hua Chenhuan straightened his face and raised his eyebrows a little. "Very good. This is the reaction I wanted." Chapter 668. Su Yiyin saw the change in his expression, but in order not to expose Hua Chenhuan, she had a hard time holding back her laughter. "Okay, you continue with your work. I'm going to eat something. I'm a little hungry." When Hua Chenhuan heard that Su Yiyin was hungry, he stopped showing off to his subordinates and got up to go with Su Yiyin. Su Yiyin blinked and asked in confusion, "You're hungry too? I'll eat with you." Su Yiyin couldn't help laughing. "No, I'm not a child. I don't need someone to eat with me. You have a meeting with him first. Business is more important." When the employees on the other end of the screen heard her words, they were jealous again. Mrs. Wu was really gentle, considerate, kind, and generous. She also cared about the overall situation. Why did Mrs. Hu like their boss? The jealous male employees counted their boss's 120 shortcomings in their heads. The more they counted, the more jealous they felt. Because even if their boss had 120 shortcomings, he still married Mrs. Hua. Oh, how infuriating. Hua Chenhuan had no idea how jealous his employees were of him now. Seeing that Su Yiyin insisted, He couldn't say anything else. He counted the number and let her go first. As soon as Su Yiyin left, Hua Chenhuan's expression changed significantly. He instantly became impatient. Several senior executives were also smart and immediately flattered him. Mrs. Hua is pregnant? Congratulations! President Hua and Mrs. Hua are having a baby so soon. It's obvious that they are very close. Congratulations. Hee, the boss is amazing. If I remember correctly, Mrs. Hua and the boss have been married for less than a year. How many months has she been pregnant so soon? Hua Chenhuan's expression became better. More than a month. She's just pregnant. She has to take good care of herself. They were all smart people. Seeing that Hua Chenhuan's attention was on Mrs. Hua, they were no longer as hesitant as before. Instead, they simplified the report as much as possible. He finished the report early and sent someone to take care of Madam. Hua Chenhuan was quite satisfied with this result. She gave everyone a rare, gentle smile, scaring quite a few people. As soon as they heard that the meeting was adjourned, they immediately logged off without any hesitation. However, not everyone was so tactful. Gu Xiaoyang and the other two were still online. Hua Chenhuan glanced at the three of them and frowned. Is there anything else? Gu Xiaoyang chuckled. Young master, young madam's pregnancy is such a joyous occasion. Shouldn't we celebrate it? How do you want to celebrate? Of course, it's better to be happy together than to be happy alone. Yu Zian smiled shyly and said, Young madam is pregnant. If young madam is happy, young master must be very happy too. Since you're so happy, can you give us some benefits so that we can share your good fortune? Hua Chenhuan glanced at him coldly and sneered. If all the good fortune is taken away by you, what about our baby? Yu Zian choked. He couldn't believe that his young master had learned the secret of arguing without anyone teaching him. Gu Xiaoyang was amused by this stupid teammate of his. How could he ask for benefits so directly? Didn't he deserve to be scolded? This guy had always praised young Madame Hua, but at this critical moment, he dropped the ball. Just as they were about to remedy the situation, Hua Chenhuan spoke first impatiently. Everyone will get an extra month's salary this month. Yu Zian and Gu Xiaoyang looked bitter. What they wanted was not the money, but other benefits. Chapter 669. However, when they saw the disdain and indifference in their boss's eyes, they silently swallowed the words that were on the tip of their tongue. Fine, I'll give you a raise. It's better than nothing. Seeing that the two of them had given up, Zhu Yanbai felt a little disappointed and decisively abandoned them. Young master, young madam is pregnant. Is there anything we can do to help? Hua Chenhuan pondered for a moment and said, Help me find a few reliable books for pregnant women. Okay, I'll find them for you in a while. Hua Chenhuan looked at him with appreciation and said, When it's done, I'll ask the restaurant to send you some food. As the man behind the boss, Hua Chenhuan still had this privilege. After leaving such a promise, Hua Chenhuan went offline, leaving Yu Zian and Gu Xiaoyang dumbfounded. Well, what was going on? They had done a lot of thankless work, but someone had coaxed their young master into giving him a red light with just a few words. Yu Zian's face turned red, and he was furious. Why? Why did they get a raise, but someone got to get something from their young master? Why? Zhu Yanbai glanced at the two of them proudly and disdainfully. Probably because of their IQ. Zhu Yanbai immediately went offline after ridiculing them, not giving them a chance to refute him at all. Yu Zian and Gu Xiaoyang looked at each other and beat their chests and stamped their feet at the same time. They regretted it so much. Qin Shiuru went to the hospital 3 days after Hua Chenhuan's birthday to wait for delivery. Considering that Su Yiyin was pregnant and couldn't take care of the baby, Cheng Xiuqin rushed over the night before. Hua Chenhuan accompanied Su Yiyin to do various checkups. After confirming that she and the baby were fine, she stayed in the hospital to take care of Qin Shiuru. However, early the next morning, Qin Shiuru suddenly had a stomachache and was sent to the delivery room. When Su Yiyin heard the news, she was really worried and hurried to the hospital. A few minutes later, Cheng Juanhao and Cheng Xiuqin were already waiting outside the delivery room. Seeing Su Yiyin coming over, Cheng Xiuqin frowned and scolded. Why are you here? Didn't I tell you to rest at home? You too. Why did you bring her here? Seeing that Cheng Xiuqin was blaming Hua Chenhuan, Su Yiyin hurriedly defended him. I asked him to bring me here. And giving birth to a baby is such a big matter. Even if I stay at home, I will always be thinking about it. I might as well come over and accompany you. Anyway, it's already bright, and there are still seats here. I won't be tired. Cheng Xiuqin still had a look of disapproval on his face, but he couldn't dissuade his daughter, so he didn't say anything more. Su Yiyin saw that she did not pursue the matter any further, and hurriedly changed the topic. How is Aunt? Isn't there still a few days before the due date? How can it be so accurate? It's normal to have it a few days earlier or later. This morning, she suddenly started to have pain. Fortunately, your uncle has been accompanying her in bed the whole time and sent her over without much delay. Is she okay now? How long has she been in there? She has been in there for a while. Your aunt isn't old and belongs to the elderly category. It's more dangerous for her to give birth compared to a young woman. If it's a little later and she really can't do it, she can only choose to have a cesarean section. Cesarean section? Unexpectedly, the one who had a bigger reaction to this was not Su Yiyin, but Hua Chenhuan. When Cheng Xiuqin heard his question, he thought that he was surprised by Qin Shueru's delivery method. He sighed and said, Shueru's body is weak, and this is her first child. It's already difficult to give birth. She doesn't have enough stamina. If necessary, she can only rely on external forces and have a cesarean section. Chapter 670. Cesarean meant to cut open the belly and then take out the child. Hua Chenhuan realized belatedly that carrying the child for 10 months was not enough. After 10 months, the child had to be taken out from Su Yiyin's belly. Thinking of this, his face turned as white as a sheet of paper, faintly showing signs of turning green. Su Yiyin heard his words and looked a little dignified. She sighed and turned her head to see her man's pale face. What's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Hua Chenhuan grabbed Su Yiyin's outstretched hand and said hoarsely, After giving birth to this one, we won't have any more. Huh? Su Yiyin was confused. Who was the one who wanted a second child? How long has it been? And you changed your mind. Hua Chenhuan pursed his lips and said nothing. Su Yiyin calmed down and thought for a while. Soon, he understood his concern and asked in a low voice, Are you scared? We'll give birth to this one, and we won't have any more. In fact, if this child threatens Su Yiyin's safety, Hua Chenhuan did not want to keep it. In his opinion, no one was more important than his wife. But he also knew that if he really said this, the first one to disagree would be Su Yiyin. Su Yiyin could probably guess what he was thinking. He sighed and said, Okay, I'll listen to you. We'll give birth to this one, and we won't have any more. Cheng Xiuqin sat aside and listened to his daughter coaxing his son-in-law. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. He inexplicably felt that his precious daughter was carrying a baby in her belly and holding another baby beside her. However, it was also a good thing that his son-in-law knew how to love his daughter. Now that he saw how other people gave birth, he would know how hard it was for a woman to get pregnant and give birth. In the future, he would love his daughter more. Su Yiyin and the others were relatively calm. Although they were worried, they still sat on the chairs and waited patiently. Cheng Juanhao, on the other hand, was pacing back and forth anxiously like an ant on a hot pan. In just a short while, he had paced back and forth a few times. Su Yiyin was dazzled by his anxiousness. Uncle, you should sit down and rest for a while. If you keep walking around like this, you'll get tired. When Annie and the baby come out, how will you have the strength to take care of them? Even though that was the case when it came down to it, how many people could really stand aside and watch while the people they cared about were suffering inside? After pausing for a while, Cheng Juanhao couldn't help but walk back and forth. In the end, Cheng Xiuqin had to personally press him down on the seat before he stopped. Su Yiyin and the others waited outside for about 2 hours before there was finally some movement inside. The door of the delivery room opened, and the first thing that was carried out was a young baby. Cheng Juanhao immediately went to greet them. Are you a family member of the pregnant woman? It's a boy. Both mother and child are safe. Congratulations. Chung Juinhao's anxious heart finally settled down, and he hurriedly thanked them. The newborn baby's red skin was so fragile that it seemed like it would break with a touch. Chung Juinhao stretched out half of his hand, but didn't dare to touch him. In the end, it was Chung Xiuqin who came over and hugged the baby. He said with a smile, "This child's face shape is like yours, and his eyebrows and eyes are like Xiuru's. When he grows up, he'll definitely be a handsome man." Su Yiyin and Chung Xiuqin subconsciously leaned forward to take a look. They really couldn't tell how this monkey-like baby resembled her uncle and aunt. Could it be that these adults all had facial recognition systems? Chapter 671. The newborn baby had to be brought to the nursery for observation. The nurse did not stay outside for too long and left with the baby. Chung Xiuqin followed the nurse to escort the child over. Chung Juinhao, Su Yiyin, and the rest continued to wait outside the delivery room for Qin Xiuru to come out. Not long after, Qin Xiuru was pushed out. The anesthesia was not over yet, and Qin Xiuru had not woken up yet. Su Yiyin and Chung Juinhao went over to take a look. After confirming that she was fine, they replied to Old Master Chung with the good news. Old Master Chung was old after all. Su Yiyin and the rest were worried about him coming to the hospital to accompany him, so they asked him to wait for news at home. The moment he received Su Yiyin's news and learned that the mother and child were safe, Old Master Cheng's eyes turned red. For an old man like him, who wouldn't want to have more children to play with and play with his grandchildren? At first, he was worried that his daughter-in-law would be stressed and embarrassed. Later, he gradually became indifferent. He was also afraid that the two children would take things too hard and affect their relationship, so he didn't dare to do it. He thought that he would never be able to see his biological grandson in this lifetime. Who would have thought that there would be a turn of events, and that his long-cherished wish would be fulfilled? Old Master Chung wanted to go to the hospital the moment he received the news. Su Yiyin managed to coax him. They agreed that once Qin Xiuru woke up, she would inform him immediately and ask him to come over to see the baby. Giving birth was physically taxing. Qin Xiuru only woke up in the afternoon. After the anesthesia, she did not feel very well. "Where's the child?" Chung Juinhao had been by her side the whole time. When he heard her question, he immediately held her hand and said, "Sister is watching. If you want to see him, I'll get her to bring him over later." Qin Xiuru heaved a sigh of relief and asked curiously, "Is it a boy or a girl?" "It's a boy. A boy." Qin Xiuru was a little surprised and a little disappointed. When Sister was pregnant with Yin Yin, the child was very energetic. "I thought it was a girl." Chung Xiuqin guessed that Qin Xiuru was about to wake up. She walked over with the child in her arms and overheard their conversation. She couldn't help but laugh and say, "How can that be accurate? In the end, it still depends on fate. Could it be that you don't like boys? Then our baby will be sad. Look at how much he resembles you and Junhao." Qin Xiuru was just saying it casually. How could she not like her own baby? Hearing Chung Xiuqin's words, Qin Xiuru curiously turned her head and looked over. She moved her body and wanted to lean over. Chung Xiuqin was afraid that she would pull on her wound, so he hurriedly said, "Don't move. I'll carry it over for you. There's no rush." When Qin Xiuru heard this, she did not move anymore and watched helplessly as she placed the child beside her pillow. This guy had just been born not long ago, and his eyes were still closed. It was unknown whether he was sleeping or temporarily unable to open his eyes. Qin Xiuru looked at this thing and felt her heart soften. When Su Yiyin and Su Yiyin heard the commotion outside, they immediately called Old Master Chung. Old Master Chung had probably been thinking about this matter the whole time, so he hurried over. As soon as she entered the room, she asked Qin Xiuru with concern, "How are you feeling? Are you all right?" After getting an affirmative answer, she shifted her attention to the child. Looking at the baby in the cradle by the bed, she hurriedly praised his eyebrows and eyes look like Xiuru's, but his mouth and nose look more like Junhao's. He picked the two of you to grow up in. What a smart guy. Su Yiyin looked surprised and amused. My mother is like this, and so are you. It looks like it can't be wrong. Chapter 672. When Cheng Xiuqin heard Su Yin's words, he misunderstood that she thought that the child did not look like Qin Shuiru and did not look like the two children. What's wrong? One look, and I can tell that this child is your uncle and aunt's biological child. I followed the child all the way from the delivery room to the nursery. I also watched him all the way. How could you have mistaken him for someone else? Su Yin was embarrassed and said helplessly, "Mom, that's not what I meant. I'm just curious. This child is so young, and his features are not even fully developed. How can you and Grandpa see any resemblance between him and uncle and aunt?" The moment Su Yin finished speaking, Cheng Xiuqin rolled his eyes at her. "What does a child like you know? You don't have any eyesight at all. What can you see?" Su Yin, "Mom, I'm not a child anymore. I already have my own baby." The corner of Su Yin's mouth twitched. She turned her head and threw herself into her man's arms. She sighed and said, "Sure enough, now that I have a cousin, I'm no longer the prettiest baby in this family. My mom has never despised me in the past." Hua Chenhuan played along with her performance and reached out to touch her head. She smiled and said, "I won't despise you. Never will." "What who?" Before Cheng Xiuqin could say anything, old Master Cheng had already scolded her jokingly. "No matter how many children there are in the family, in our eyes, you will always be the most precious one." Qin Shiru also echoed, "Isn't that so? When I heard that it was a boy, I felt that it was a pity. I was afraid that this boy would be too mischievous and Junhao, and I wouldn't be able to take it. Girls are more obedient." When Cheng Xiuqin heard this, she could not help but laugh. "Actually, it's the same whether it's a boy or a girl. You have a good personality. If this child takes after you, he will definitely be obedient. If he takes after Junhao, then it may not be so. They're both nephew and uncle. Our Yushuan's personality is just like Junhao's. At that time, he was so naughty that even I felt embarrassed." Su Yushuan, who was suddenly mentioned, "Don't cue me for no reason. Please let me be beautiful alone. Thank you." "Sis." Cheng Junhao was a little depressed when he was suddenly dissed. "You're a father after all. Save me some face." Everyone present was amused by Cheng Junhao's words, and the ward was filled with laughter. Qin Shiru had just woken up, and her energy was limited. Furthermore, after the anesthesia wore off, her body was definitely not feeling well. After a few words, she was already exhausted. Unfortunately, she couldn't eat anything at this moment, so she could only try her best to conserve her energy and slowly endure it. Cheng Junhao could not share her burden, so he could only sit beside her and accompany her silently. Su Yin was worried that Hua Chenhuan would continue to stay in the ward and explode when he saw Qin Shuiru like this, so she brought him home with the old master. Cheng Xiuqin stayed behind so that the two of them and the children could help them if they needed anything at night. Although Su Yin had the foresight to leave with Hua Chenhuan in advance, everything in the hospital still had a certain impact on her. For a long time after that, Hua Chenhuan was overly worried about her, causing Su Yin to not know whether to laugh or cry. Because of the C-section, Qin Shiru rested in the hospital for a whole week before returning home. After that, she ate all kinds of nourishing food. After a month of confinement, not only did Qin Shiru eat until her face was rosy, even Cheng Junhao had gained a few pounds from eating. Su Yin also wanted to eat, but unfortunately, she started to have morning sickness from the second month. After a month, not only did she not gain weight, she even lost a few pounds. Hua Chenhuan was so anxious that her mouth was bubbling. Chapter 673. Fortunately, this situation didn't last for too long. After suffering for about a month, she slowly recovered. The news that the current head of the Cheng family finally had a child of his own quickly spread through the upper echelons of society. Many people were surprised, but they were also curious about this matter. They began to secretly inquire about the Cheng family. Some of the Cheng family's business partners and friends even called Old Master Cheng. Old Master Cheng dealt with a few groups of people. Although he was proud of himself, he was also a little annoyed. He decided to take advantage of the child's 1-month-old celebration to hold a large-scale banquet and invite all his relatives, friends, and business partners to officially announce the existence of this child. The Chung family's success attracted a lot of attention. For this banquet, the Chung family specially booked a huge venue and decorated it with an ocean-themed fantasy kingdom with an azure background. It matched the family's name, Chung Haizhou. At 6 o'clock on the night of the celebration, the invited guests arrived one after another. Su Yiyin wasn't the main star of this banquet. She was pregnant, so she didn't welcome the guests with Qin Shiuru and Hua Jinyao. Instead, she pulled Hua Chenhuan to a corner and looked at old Master Chung, who was in high spirits because of the compliment from his old friends. Chung Juanhao and his wife were all smiles as they greeted the guests. This guy had been raised for a month. Although he was still a puppy, he didn't blush like a monkey like before. His white and chubby face, coupled with his big black grape-like eyes, was very cute, especially when those eyes looked at you. Rao Exing couldn't help but soften a little. She couldn't help but want to give him all the good things. This guy wasn't afraid of people. He didn't cry even after being hugged by Qin Shiuru. Occasionally, he would smile happily and show his bare teeth to the guests. "Are you hungry?" Hua Chenhuan pushed a plate of snacks in front of Su Yiyin, ready to feed her at any time. Most of the food at the banquet was prepared by Annie Fong and the servants at home. Because of this, Hua Chenhuan was relieved to let Su Yiyin eat. Su Yiyin rolled her eyes at him. "I just had a bowl of porridge. How could I be hungry so soon?" Su Yiyin couldn't help but rub her chin. Perhaps it was because she had lost a few kilograms of morning sickness, but recently, her morning sickness had not been so severe. Hua Chenhuan and her family had been feeding her as much as they could. They wished they could raise her like a pig and feed her 7 to 8 meals a day. Now that you're eating 2 people's tonics, you should definitely eat more. Annie used to eat like that too, from 5 to 6 meals a day. She's eating less and more, eating less for every meal. Unlike me, I eat so much for every meal. Look at my stomach. It hasn't been long, but I've already put on so much weight. Put on so much weight? Hua Chenhuan's eyes flickered. He reached out to touch it. "Let me see." Su Yiyin blushed. She quickly grabbed his hand and gave him a cold look. "There are so many people here. Their attention isn't on us." Hua Chenhuan used the table as a cover to touch Su Yiyin's stomach. "I think it's big 0. Our baby has grown up." Su Yiyin was angry and amused at his words. How big could a 2-month-old baby be? Her stomach was obviously fed by them. Chapter 674. Because of her pregnancy, Su Yiyin's temper has been quite fiery recently. She wants to beat someone up at any moment. In order to not act out domestic violence in public, Su Yiyin can only take a deep breath and say, "I'm a little thirsty." Hua Chenhuan instantly understood. "I'll go get you some juice. You sit here and don't run around." Okay. After Hua Chenhuan left, Su Yiyin had nothing to do. Just as she was hesitating whether or not to go find Qin Shiru and the others, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. "Yin." Su Yiyin looked at the man who had appeared in front of her. Her eyes narrowed and her face turned ugly. "Chung, Fengling?" When a man heard how she called him, he was stunned for a moment. He smiled bitterly. "Didn't you call me Brother Fengling before? Why are you suddenly so distant? Or are you not going to recognize me as your brother after getting married?" Su Yiyin's face darkened and a trace of disgust flashed through the depths of her eyes. Chung Fengling in front of her was a distant relative of the Chung family. In her previous life, she had a good impression of this brother who was about the same age as her. Therefore, she did not see the ugly face under this handsome and refined face. Even when the Chung family declined, Su Yiyin did not suspect him. Until after her death, he followed by Hua Chenhuan's side. That was when she saw this distant cousin of hers again after so many years. The handsome and refined face of the past had long faded away, leaving only distortion and madness. It was also at that time that Su Yiyin knew that this man had such thoughts about her. "I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I just want her. I love her so much. I like her so much. We are not related by blood. Why can't I marry her?" In response, Hua Chenhuan threw a pile of information in front of him. At that time, Su Yiyin, who was already in a spirit state, floated to the pile of information and glanced at it. She only felt a chill all over her body. Ming Ming had long lost his body, but he still could not stop his limbs from turning cold. Cheng Fengling didn't really interfere with the decline of the Cheng family. The one who really repaid kindness with enmity was Cheng Fenglong's biological mother. But if Cheng Fengling didn't know anything about it, Su Yiyin would never believe it. Apart from this, Cheng Fengling was also involved in the suppression of the Su family by all the major corporations. It was all for the sake of getting her. You have no idea how much I love her. When I first saw her, she was only 6 years old. She was wearing a pink dress and had 2 braids. She was holding the old man's hand obediently. She was like a fairy who had strayed into someone else's house. She was so cute and beautiful. At that time, I was thinking that if I could get her one day. Cheng Fenglong's eyes were filled with stubbornness and madness. I tried my best to control myself for fear of scaring her. It was not easy to wait until she grew up. I was eager to marry her. I wanted to hold her in the palm of my hand and love her for the rest of my life. I plucked up my courage and asked my mother to sound out the old man. What was the result? Cheng Fenglong's eyes were red. He was like a mad dog that had long lost control. The old man was vague and kept saying that it was not suitable. She only treated me as an older brother. Later, he even began to deliberately not let me see her. I knew that he looked down on me and my family. He felt that I was not worthy of her. If they looked down on me, then they could all go to hell. That way, she would have no one to rely on and I would spare her. Ha ha ha. Chapter 675. That was the first time in Su Yiyin's life that she felt cold to the bone. Just because her grandfather didn't want her to marry him and stopped him from meeting her, he couldn't wait to kill everyone. He had never considered that those were human lives and that these human lives were related to him. They were also her family. He was obviously an executioner, but he tried to appear in front of her as a savior when she had no one to rely on. He wanted her to be grateful to him and rely on him. Was it really love that he hurt her and her relatives in the name of love? Maybe her grandfather didn't misjudge him from the beginning. He was a madman. You really don't deserve her. Hua Chenhuan sat in the wheelchair and coldly stared at the man who kept saying that he loved Su Yiyin. You don't deserve her, and your family doesn't deserve her. What you should think about is how to change yourself, try to get her relatives' approval, and try to make yourself worthy of her, instead of breaking her wings and pulling her down from her lofty position into your disgusting, stinking gutter. Hua Chenhuan looked into Cheng Fenglong's eyes and concluded in a cold tone, You don't deserve to love her. Su Yiyin had been with Hua Chenhuan for a long time, but it was the first time that she heard him say so many words at once. Her heart couldn't help trembling. Cheng Fengling was completely crazy because of Hua Chenhuan's words. He was standing, and Hua Chenhuan was sitting, but at that moment, Hua Chenhuan was like a peak that he could never surpass, and he was just an ant that could be easily trampled to death at his feet at any time. Cheng Fengling bared his fangs and brandished his claws and wanted to rush over, but he was restrained by several bodyguards in black and couldn't move. In anger, he could only keep cursing. He cursed Hua Chenhuan for having dirty thoughts about Su Yiyin. He cursed him for being a disabled toad who wanted to eat goose meat. What was the difference between him and him? He didn't deserve to criticize him at all. That was also the first time that Su Yiyin really felt sorry for Hua Chenhuan's legs. Just as Hua Chenhuan had said, he had tried his best to make himself outstanding and worthy of her. However, because of his legs, he had failed at the starting point and caused them to miss out on a lifetime together. How could she not be moved by such a person? Once the seed of love was planted, it would grow into a ginseng tree sooner or later. After being reborn, Su Yiyin thought that she would never see this person again, but she didn't expect. Su Yiyin lowered her eyes to hide the coldness in them. She said coldly, When I was young, I called him brother. When I grew up, I naturally couldn't continue to call him brother. Moreover, my husband is quite jealous, and it's not easy to coax him. I don't want him to misunderstand. Cheng Fengling obviously didn't expect her to be like this. The gentle smile on his face stiffened, and he said with disappointment, "It seems that Yin Yin and your husband have a good relationship. Did he come over with you today?" "Yes, he brought me some food. Calculating the time, he should be back soon. So, can I trouble you to go back to where you came from? Don't stay here and disturb our two-person world." However, Su Yiyin still underestimated a certain shameless person. When Cheng Fenglang heard this, he didn't leave tactfully. Instead, he naturally sat opposite Su Yiyin and said with a smile, "When you got married, I happened to have something to do, so I couldn't be there in person to congratulate you. Since I'm here today, I'll meet this brother-in-law whom I've never met." Chapter 676. Su Yin's face darkened. She really wanted to tell him to get lost, but there were so many people at the banquet. It was not good to openly clash with Cheng Fenglang at this time and ruin the banquet that her uncle and aunt had carefully prepared for so long. She could only secretly call for the guy who went to get the juice to come back early to help her out. However, to Su Yin's surprise, Hua Chenhuan left for almost half an hour before returning. When Hua Chenhuan came back with a glass of freshly squeezed juice, her face was ugly. After seeing a strange man sitting next to Su Yiyin, her face became even uglier. "Yin Yin, your juice is ready." Su Yiyin had already been impatient to deal with someone. When she heard Hua Chenhuan's voice, her eyes lit up, as if she had seen her savior. She unconsciously complained like a spoiled child. "Why did you come back so late? There were no ingredients in the kitchen, so I sent someone out to buy ingredients." Hua Chenhuan explained in a good-tempered manner, and then looked at Cheng Fenglang. "This is?" Cheng Fenglang looked at Su Yin's undisguised dependence on the person in front of him, and his eyes suddenly deepened. He smiled faintly and said, "I am Yin Yin's cousin. You must be Yin Yin's new husband. Hello, I am Cheng Fenglang." Cheng Fenglang took the initiative to reach out his hand to Hua Chenhuan. Hua Chenhuan glanced at the hand in front of her. Her eyes flashed, and she reached out to shake his hand. The two shook hands for less than 2 seconds, but Su Yiyin on the side smelled the smoke of gunpowder. Su Yiyin frowned and took the initiative to get up and hold Hua Chenhuan's arm. She smiled and said, "Why did you only take 1 glass? Don't you want a drink?" Hua Chenhuan took advantage of the opportunity to help Su Yiyin to sit down, and the expression on her face softened a little. "There are not many ingredients, only enough for 1 glass." Su Yin's eyes lit up, and he said without thinking, "Then let's drink together." Normally, no matter how greedy Hua Chenhuan was, he wouldn't fight with his wife for food. But when she saw the man sitting opposite her, she changed her mind. Okay, Su Yiyin and Cheng Fenglang were so close to each other that Cheng Fenglang's face turned deathly pale for a moment. However, he quickly smiled and said, "The relationship between the two of you is really good. It's not like what the rumors say at all." "Rumors?" Su Yiyin raised her eyebrows and interrupted him. "What are the rumors about us?" Cheng Fenglang choked and did not answer directly. Instead, he asked tactfully, "I heard that you two got married in a flash." Su Yiyin knew what he was hinting at. Her eyes turned cold. Just as she was about to explain, Hua Chenhuan reached over and held her hand tightly under the table, interlocking their fingers. "It was a flash marriage. We fell in love with each other at first sight. That's really romantic." Su Yiyin snorted coldly in her heart and secretly scolded hypocrisy. However, her mouth was incomparably sweet. "I also think that some people are like this. They only need to look at each other to know that the other party is the most perfect choice in their life. On the contrary, some people were destined to be unable to get together even if they had been around for decades." Cheng Fenglang's eyes lit up when he heard her words. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Su Yiyin again. "Of course, feelings are two-way. A forced melon is not sweet. I like him, and he happens to like me. It'd save a lot of trouble. Otherwise, we can't get married in a flash even if we wanted to." Chapter 677. Although Su Yiyin was emphasizing that the two of them were in love with each other, if one thought about it carefully, she might be hinting at Chung Fenglang. Flash marriage was not a derogatory term for them. On the contrary, the reason why they had a flash marriage was precisely because they had feelings for each other. Otherwise, if one of them was willing and the other was not, no matter how much they entangled, they would not be able to get married, just like him and her. Chung Fenglang was not a fool. When he heard Su Yin's words, he was stunned for a moment. He looked at Su Yin with more surprise in his eyes. He intuitively felt that the person in front of him might know something. But how did she know? Could it be? For a moment, Chung Fenglang's mind was full of twists and turns, and the smile on his face was a little more forced. Yin Yin's words make sense. When Su Yin heard this intimate address again, she frowned slightly and took a sip of the juice brought by Hua Chenhuan. "Honey, this juice is very sweet. Have a taste." Su Yin handed the juice in her hand to Hua Chenhuan very naturally. Hua Chenhuan was shocked by Su Yin's call of honey. After being stunned, she quickly reacted and lowered her head to drink from Su Yin's hand. "It's very sweet. I like the taste." Hua Chenhuan instantly understood. "Okay, I'll ask someone to buy it later." Su Yin giggled sheepishly. "Am I pushing my luck and becoming arrogant because of my child?" Hua Chenhuan laughed. "No, it's just some fruits. Even if you don't have a baby in your belly, as long as you want to eat it, I'll get it for you." Su Yin's eyes curved slightly. She was satisfied. Chung Fenglang was already upset because of their undisguised intimacy. When he heard the second half, he was even more surprised. "Baby? Yes, I'm pregnant." Chung Fenglang looked at the undisguised sweetness and joy on Su Yin's face and thought about the fact that she was pregnant with another man's child. The veins on the back of his hands, which were hanging under the table, bulged, announcing that he was not calm. After a short silence, Chung Fenglang said with some difficulty, "Congratulations." "Thank you." After experiencing a few blows, even someone as patient as Chung Fenglang couldn't take it anymore. He stood up and said, "I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. If there's a chance, let's get together again." Su Yin glanced at him and thought, "Next time?" "There will be no next time." However, he replied politely and distantly, "Okay." As soon as Chung Fenglang left, the smile on Su Yin's face immediately disappeared. She quietly finished the fruit juice that Hua Chenhuan brought back. She hugged Hua Chenhuan's arm and said tiredly, "I'm a little tired. Let's go back first." Hua Chenhuan looked at her expression and instinctively knew that something had happened. She nodded and brought her to find Qin Shiwu and the others, informing them that they had to leave first. Qin Shiwu and the others knew that it was hard for Su Yin to be pregnant. They were also worried that she would be tired. Without asking much, they asked Hua Chenhuan to take her home to rest quickly. As soon as they got in the car, Su Yin hugged Hua Chenhuan's waist and buried her whole face in his arms. Her eyebrows were full of intimacy and dependence. Hua Chenhuan's heart softened. He reached out and touched her head. Then he pulled her into his arms so that she could lean on him more comfortably. They hugged each other like this for a while, and no one said anything. Just when Su Yin's eyelids were fighting to stay open and she was about to fall asleep, Hua Chenhuan asked hesitantly, "That man, just now, is he really your cousin? Why haven't I heard that you have a cousin? Didn't your grandfather only give birth to your mother and your uncle?" Chapter 678. Su Yin was about to fall asleep, but when she heard what he said, she forced her eyelids open and looked at Hua Chenhuan with a slightly confused expression. When Hua Chenhuan saw this, he thought that she was unwilling. He lowered his eyes and said, "If you don't want to, then don't." Su Yin finally woke up. She laughed and said, "Why wouldn't I want to? He is indeed my cousin in name." "Cousin in name?" Hua Chenhuan caught the main point. "Why? According to seniority, he is indeed related to me, but we are not related by blood. His grandfather and my grandfather are brothers in name, but my grandfather is my great-grandfather's biological son, and his grandfather was adopted." Hua Chenhuan immediately understood what she meant. "So, his family is not related to you by blood?" "Yes, after my grandfather married my grandmother, he separated from them. Although they also have the surname Chung, they don't see us many times a year, so we can't be considered familiar with them. Su Yiyin leaned into Hua Qinhuan's arms. She paused and frowned. I don't really like his mother. His mother is about the same age as my mother. She is very vain, likes to compete, and is very narrow-minded. Su Yiyin knew all this in her previous life. However, the other party was an elder, and they rarely saw each other. No matter how annoying this aunt was, it was not worth it to her. Although she was annoying, Su Yiyin did not have any conflicts with her. Later, when Su Yiyin found out that the Chung family's matter was related to her, she knew that this aunt of hers had always been jealous of her mother and Qin Shiru. Qin Shiru was fine. In her previous life, until Su Yiyin passed away, she and Cheng Juanhao did not have any children. Qin Shiru's aunt had a son of her own. In any case, she won against Qin Shiru on this point. Behind her back, she often took joy in her misfortune. Cheng Xiuqin was different. She had a son and a daughter, and her parents loved her dearly. She also had a husband who put her first and started his own company. Her aunt's husband was a mediocre and honest man. Although he wasn't cunning and sly, he wasn't cut out for business either. He couldn't give her the rich life she wanted. Comparing the two, her mentality immediately became unbalanced. Furthermore, she had tried to ask old Master Su to strengthen the marriage between Su Yiyin and his son. However, old Master Su had fooled her, which had poked at her sensitive self-esteem. She felt that the Chung family looked down on her and her son, so she hated them. When Su Yiyin found out about this, she felt nauseous. You're not looking for the reason why your life is not good. You're working hard to live your life well, but you're thinking about other people's lives. When you see others living better than you, you feel unbalanced and want to harm others. When she thought about it carefully, this idea was very similar to her son's. It was true that if the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. If they weren't from the same family, they wouldn't enter the same house. After listening to Su Yiyin's words, Hua Qinhuan was silent for a moment. Then, he said firmly, he likes you. Su Yiyin widened her eyes in surprise and looked up at him. How did you know? Intuition. Su Yiyin. So, there was a special radar between love rivals? They had only met once, and in less than 5 sentences, he could tell. As for her, she had known Cheng Fenglang for a long time. Although they didn't have much contact, they had met many times. Yet, she didn't notice it at all. Chapter 679. Hua Qinhuan narrowed her eyes, and her expression revealed a hint of danger. You know that he likes you? His mother once talked about this with my grandfather. Based on the information from her previous life, her aunt should have mentioned this to her grandfather a long time ago. However, her grandfather didn't tell her. Instead, he secretly stopped Cheng Fenglang and didn't let him have too much contact with her. He even secretly planned to send Cheng Fenglang abroad for several years. Grandfather Jean was probably busy greeting the guests and didn't pay attention to the situation of the guests. This allowed Cheng Fenglang to take advantage of the loophole. Hua Qinhuan's expression immediately became a little ugly. Related topics? What related topics could the elders talk about? It was nothing more than matchmaking 2 people. My grandfather didn't agree because he knew that it was impossible for me to like him. Su Yiyin lowered her eyes slightly. Moreover, I don't think he really likes me. The person he likes is just an illusion of his imagination. As for the so-called obsession later on, it was just selfishness in the end. People are selfish, but some selfish people have a bottom line, and some people don't. Moreover, later on, Su Yiyin calmed down and thought about it. She felt that this family's intention to marry her was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. In her previous life, her uncle and aunt didn't have any children and didn't think of adopting a child. The Chung family didn't have an heir in name, and they didn't want to adopt a child. The biggest possibility was to choose one of Cheng Xiuqin's 2 children to inherit the Chung family. Su Yuxuan had his own business. Compared to him, Su Yiyin was obviously more likely to be the heir. If Cheng Fenglang married her, it wasn't impossible for him to take the entire Chung family in the future. Evil people always like to put on a dignified shell for all the bad things they did. In fact, only they knew how many schemes they had in mind. Hua Chenhuan could see that Su Yiyin really didn't like that man. It could even be said that she hated him. At the same time, she couldn't help but feel a little distressed. Su Yiyin rarely expressed her disgust to someone so directly. Before this, most of the people who enjoyed this treatment were weirdos who took advantage of her face and stepped on her nose. This Cheng Fenglang must have done something that made her feel disgusted, which was why she was so repulsed. Hua Chenhuan's eyes turned cold. She was already planning to ask Gu Xiaoyang and the others to investigate this person's family. Besides, Hua Chenhuan's eyes flashed with a cold light when she thought of the person she had accidentally met near the venue. She was vaguely annoyed and impatient. Not long after Su Yiyin and Hua Chenhuan left the venue, Cheng Fenglang and his family also left. As soon as they got into the car, Aunt Cheng's face darkened. She did not hide her jealousy and resentment towards Cheng Juanhao's family. Isn't it just giving birth to a son? It was as if no one had ever given birth to a child. She couldn't wait to let everyone know. She still has a child at such an old age. I wonder if she'll still be around when the child grows up. It was no wonder that Aunt Cheng was so angry that her face was distorted. She thought that the Cheng family's bloodline would be cut off. Her family might not be able to get a share of the profits after old Master Cheng passed away. But in the end, Qin Shuiru suddenly had a child. All her gloating and greedy expectations were in vain. How could she not be angry? Aunt Cheng's husband, Cheng Fenglang's father, frowned when he heard his wife's words. He disagreed and said, "You stop talking. It's a good thing for people to have children. How can you curse people like that?" Chapter 680. It would have been fine if he hadn't said anything, but after he said that, Aunt Cheng's anger rose. "I did. What's wrong? Do you want to complain to them about me? I haven't even told you yet, and you have a nerve to scold me? We're both members of the Cheng family. They eat and drink well, live in a big, spacious, and beautiful house, and have servants and chefs at home. They live comfortably. What about our family? We even have to hesitate to buy a new house for our children." Aunt Cheng pointed at her husband and scolded him like a shrew. "You're useless. You don't even dare to fart in front of others. I'm just telling the truth, and you're so afraid of offending people. Why am I wrong? It was their family who didn't do well in the first place. They coaxed the old master to leave everything to them. That's not a big deal. We're a family after all. They took the benefits and helped us. It's nothing. But in the end, they're living a comfortable life and have everything, but they can only watch as our family lives a hard life. In my opinion, the reason why they haven't had children for so many years is because they've done too many wicked things. It's retribution. If the old master has eyes, he should let them die without descendants." Uncle Ching listened to his wife's sarcastic words and opened his mouth, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Although he was honest, his family hadn't been harmonious all these years, and his career hadn't been going well. This man, who didn't have much ability, had experienced the vicissitudes of life and misery. His wife's accusations also made him start to resent the Cheng family. No matter what, they were still relatives. If the Cheng family had given them something, their family wouldn't have had such a hard time. However, the couple had clearly forgotten that although they had the surname Cheng, they weren't related to the Cheng family at all. Back then, the old master of the Cheng family had taken pity on their grandfather, so he adopted him and gave him a meal. Later, although they separated from the family and didn't give their grandfather as many things as old Master Cheng, he was still their biological son. You were just an adopted son. They gave you such a large sum of money, enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. It could be said that they didn't let you down. As long as you had some backbone and took this money to walk your own path, that would be your ability. However, Cheng Fenglang's grandfather didn't think so. After receiving the money, he resented the Cheng family while hoping that he could still freeload off his brother after spending all the money. Instead of being down to earth and using the money to do some business to support his family, he spent even more than usual. It didn't take long for him to spend more than half of the money and excitedly ran to the Chung family to ask for more money. In the beginning, the Chung family still gave them 1 or 2 times out of consideration for their old friendship. Later, they realized that these people were just bloodsuckers who couldn't be fed enough, so they stopped paying attention to them. Instead, they bore a grudge against them. Even the younger generation was resentful. They felt that the Chung family had deliberately raised their grandfather to be a cripple to prevent him from competing with old Master Chung for the family inheritance. It was really like the saying, once you've gained enough, you'll gain enough enmity. Chung Fenglong's family had already squandered most of their money in Grandpa Cheng's generation. When it came to Uncle Cheng's generation, they wanted to take the money to do some business. Unfortunately, Uncle Chung didn't have any business acumen. After doing business for a few years, he didn't make much money and even lost a lot. The more difficult the days were, the more Aunt Chung hated the Chung family. However, it never occurred to her that the Chung family had never owed them anything. Why should they help them? Chapter 681. Enough. Can't you be quiet? Chung Fenglang listened to his parents' quarrel, and his face was gloomy to the extreme. He finally couldn't help but shout in a low voice. Aunt Cheng's face was full of unwillingness. Just as she was about to speak, she met her son's ugly face. Fenglang, what's wrong with you? Why you look so pale? Uncle Chung also noticed his son's abnormality when she shouted. He asked with concern, "Are you feeling unwell?" Chung Fenglang was silent for a moment, then said in a hoarse voice, "I just met Yin Yin." Yin Yin? Aunt Chung was stunned for a moment. It took her a long time to remember who the Yin Yin Chung Fenglang was talking about was. Her face darkened. You met her? Did she say something unpleasant to you and make you sad? Aunt Chung didn't wait for Chung Fenglang to answer and came to a conclusion first. It must be. This B asterisk TCH is the same as her mother. They both worship the strong and trample on the weak. Their eyes are on the top of their heads. They look down on our family and think that our family isn't good enough for her. She married an incompetent cripple from a rich family. Cripple? Chung Fenglang was shocked. He knew about Su Yiyin's sudden marriage. At that time, he was sad for a long time. At that time, he was still abroad. If his parents hadn't stopped him, he even wanted to go to Su Yiyin personally and ask her what was wrong with him. Aunt Cheng's face changed slightly. She realized that she had accidentally spilled the beans. As a relative, she had heard a lot of gossip about Su Yiyin's family. After knowing that Su Yiyin had married a cripple, she was relieved, but at the same time, she was worried that her son would be sad when he found out, so she had been hiding it. Who would have thought that she would blurt it out so quickly? However, since it was out, Aunt Chung didn't hide it anymore. Isn't he a cripple? It's said that he's in a wheelchair. His legs are disabled, and he can't even stand up. His legs are disabled? Chung Fenglong's eyes narrowed. But the man just now is not a cripple. Not a cripple? How is that possible? I asked around at that time. He's a cripple in a wheelchair. It's said that his legs have been broken for more than 10 years. There's no doubt about it. Then Aunt Chung rolled her eyes and thought that she understood. That man is definitely not her husband. He's someone she's having an affair with. How is this possible? Why not? That B asterisk TCH must have been unwilling to marry a cripple. Let's not talk about anything else. That man's legs are crippled, and he won't be able to have sex with her. Isn't it just a matter of time? If you don't want to, then why did you marry him? Chung Fenglang still couldn't accept that the woman he liked would rather marry a cripple who couldn't even walk by himself than choose him. Aunt Chung rolled her eyes at her son and said in exasperation, "Of course it's for money. For money. For a young lady to marry a cripple, other than for his family's money. What else could it be? Didn't I just say that? The man she married was probably very rich, at least richer than that B asterisk TCH's family. If the two of them get married, it might be, yes, it's a business marriage. After getting married, they'll go their separate ways." Chung Fenglong's eyes were slightly red. He still didn't want to believe that the woman he liked was such a person. Aunt Chung was still nagging about Su Yiyin, but Chung Fenglang couldn't listen to a single word. After a few minutes, he muttered, "She's pregnant." Chapter 682. She's pregnant? Aunt Chung exclaimed. She's pregnant? Whose child is it? It should be the man beside her. Aunt Chung pursed her lips with a look of disdain. It's fine if she's just fooling around outside, but she's actually pregnant. Is this B*TCH determined to let her man take over and raise another man's child? As expected of Chung Xiuqin's despicable daughter, she's just as despicable. Isn't she living comfortably with her man's money? She's still raising another man and giving birth to another man's child. Shameless. Aunt Cheng's words were unpleasant to the ears, and Uncle Cheng couldn't help but say, "Stop talking." Why should I stop talking? She did it herself, so why should she be afraid of others? Aunt Cheng wasn't willing to let go of this opportunity to scold Aunt Chung. She snorted and continued. Fortunately, our Feng Lang didn't marry her back then. Who knows what kind of trouble such a promiscuous woman would cause if he married her. Uncle Chung and his wife quarreled for a while. Chung Fenglang listened on the side and didn't say anything else. However, from his tightly clenched fists and the veins on the back of his hands, one could still see that his heart was not calm at this moment. After an unknown period of time, Chung Fenglang's expression gradually returned to its original calmness, but there was a hint of complexity and hatred in the depths of his eyes. At that time, Su Yiyin had no idea that in the eyes of Chung Fenglang and his family, she had already become an adulterous woman who had cheated on her husband. On the second day of the full moon banquet, she directly mentioned Chung Fenglang's family to old Master Chung and the others, warning them to be on guard against this family and not get too close to them if there was nothing. Although Chung Juanhao and the others were a little puzzled, they knew that Su Yiyin wouldn't harm them, so they nodded and agreed. Old Master Chung was surprised by Su Yiyin's words, and his expression became complicated. Obviously, he thought of what Aunt Chung had mentioned to him before. He vaguely guessed that his granddaughter probably already knew about this and had some unpleasant conflict with his family. Both grandfather and grandson were well aware of this, but they had a tacit understanding. Neither of them mentioned this matter. After the full moon ceremony, Su Yiyin and Chung Su Yiyin stayed at the Chung residence for a few more days. Only when the baby in Su Yiyin's stomach was 3 months old did they set off for a city. In less than 2 months, the businesses under the two men's names did not have any major problems. At Luo Baoging's side, the auditions for the main cast of Red Brave were almost done. Most of the roles had already been confirmed. As Hua Chenhuan expected, Douyi's people didn't want to find trouble with Luo Baoging, pressuring him to withdraw from the cast. However, Luo Baoging was a person who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. The more he tried to make trouble for him, the more he wanted to film this drama well and slap them in the face. Secondly, Hua Chenhuan had predicted this would happen and had sent people to protect the couple. Heidi had been rebuffed several times, so they slowly calmed down. In addition to Luo Baoging's matter, there was also an interesting matter. It was the only modern IP among the 3 IPs that Su Yiyin had her eyes on. At that time, Zhu Ying took the lead and extended an olive branch to Dong Chung, wanting to invest in exchange for 2 roles in this drama, a male lead and a second female lead. Su Yiyin only promised to give them an opportunity to audition, and if they succeeded, they would be let into the cast. In the end, the 2 dresses had some ability and got the 2 roles after the audition. However, not long after they entered the cast, the second female lead actress began to cause trouble. Chapter 683. She wants to add scenes? She even brought her own screenwriter into the crew? When Su Yiyin heard about this, she almost laughed out of anger. Does she think the crew is her home? Everyone in the crew has to revolve around her, right? Tell her to behave herself, or she'll get lost. She's not part of our company to begin with. Dong Chung has no obligation to spoil her. Su Yiyin's words fully explained Dong Cheng's attitude towards this matter. However, how could someone who could do such a strange thing as bringing in her own screenwriter be well behaved? The second daughter, who had caused trouble as soon as she entered the crew, was asked to leave the crew and sent back to Zhu Ying. It would have been fine if this matter had ended there, But a certain someone was not someone who could settle things peacefully. As soon as she returned to the company, she started causing trouble. She claimed that on the first day of entering the crew, she was bullied by the cast and staff because she was not an artiste of Dongcheng. She was forced to leave the crew and led the fans to tear Dongcheng apart. Dongcheng had originally considered that Zhu Ying still had a male artiste in the crew, and that he was more well-behaved. It was not good for them to fall out with Zhu Ying and make things too ugly, so they did not pursue the strange thing that this female artiste had done. In the end, someone took their tolerance for weakness. Dongcheng City didn't give Zhu Ying any face. They immediately announced the whole story and asked for compensation. That's right, compensation. When Zhu Ying had taken the initiative to express goodwill, Su Yiyin had deliberately been on guard against the two actors who had been stuffed into the crew. It was not uncommon for the entertainment industry to bring money into the crew to change the script and forcefully add the supporting roles to be similar to the lead roles. Therefore, she made it clear that all the artistes in the cast had to sign a guarantee to ensure that they would not cause any trouble in the cast. Now that this female artiste had caused such a scene, the compensation was secondary. She had only been in the crew for 2 or 3 days, so the crew had not delayed her for long. The main reason was that the crew had to find someone else to take the loss, but this was not a big deal to Zhu Ying. However, after she caused such a scene, everyone knew that she was acting like a big shot. She even brought her own screenwriter into the crew to add scenes. Over the years, those die-hard fans of the Bright White Moon IP had been changed beyond recognition because of the extra scenes in the supporting roles. They only had an IP name, but the plot had nothing to do with the original work. All of a sudden, they vented their anger on her and scolded her. In the future, if there were any other directors who wanted to get her to act in a movie, they would have to consider whether they could withstand the negative public opinion brought about by this person, and whether they could afford to serve such an ancestor. On the contrary, Dongqing's tough attitude had also attracted a wave of fans, which made the fans of the books and comics who were originally worried that their own IP would be magically altered temporarily calm down. It also made the low-key crew feel a wave of presence and warm up in advance. She saved us a lot of publicity fees by making such a scene. In addition to the other compensation for the losses, it's not a loss. When Xia Junsheng heard Su Yiyin's words, his first reaction was to think that she might have already predicted that someone would make such a scene. Not only did she punish her as an example to others, but she also stepped on her and made a strong impression on the crew. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was not impossible. Agreeing to Zhu Ying's request was considered giving Zhu Ying face. At that time, signing the contract was also a guarantee for both of them. It would be best if these two artistes knew their place. Everyone could film a good drama peacefully, and it would be a win-win situation for both parties. Once they caused trouble, it would be a waste not to take the heat that came knocking on their door. Chapter 684. The second female lead was kicked out of the cast and caused such a ruckus. The male lead, Qi Qiumiao, was left in an awkward position. He originally thought that after the female artist caused such a ruckus, Dongcheng would take their anger out on him and he might not be able to keep his position as the male lead. At the very least, he would be implicated and isolated in the cast. It was also possible that they would try to trip him up. However, after he stayed in the cast for half a month, nothing happened. Everyone's attitude towards him did not change. They did not make things difficult for him, nor did they take revenge on him. In the end, Qi Qiumiao was really curious, so he secretly asked a small actor in the cast who had a good relationship with him. After hearing his words, the young actor looked at him in surprise and then laughed. "So, this is what you've been thinking about for the past half a month. Fortunately, everything was normal when you were acting. Otherwise, Director Zhuang would have already come to you for counseling." Qi Qiumiao looked embarrassed. After laughing, the small actor pretended to be angry and said, "In your eyes, are we such narrow-minded people?" As soon as that weirdo was kicked out of the cast, the company gave a notice. "That woman is that woman. You are you. What she does has nothing to do with you. It's already bad enough that you have a colleague who is dragging you down. We don't want to add insult to injury." The small actor paused and smiled faintly. Actually, even if the company didn't say anything, we wouldn't do anything to you. After all, anyone with eyes can see that you are different from that woman. As long as you're not an idiot, you won't be involved in what she did. Chi Chimiao was touched and couldn't help but sigh at someone's stupidity. He didn't even know his own position. It wasn't easy for him to get into the cast, but he still caused trouble. Did he really think that he could do whatever he wanted just because he had a backer? Although Dongxing Entertainment was still a small company in development, all the things it had done during this period of time showed that it had someone backing it up. If anyone dared to mess with Dongxing Entertainment or its artists, Dongxing Entertainment would kill them. Signing that agreement before entering the production team meant that the other party had seen through your thoughts and had already come up with a plan to deal with it. You, on the other hand, didn't care about anything. Did you really think that everyone had to give in to you? If they didn't fix you, who would they fix? Also, I heard that because of that woman, your agency even gave us an additional investment as an apology. Haven't you noticed that our food has become much more sumptuous recently? At least, it's no longer those tasteless nutrient solutions. Which production crew do you think would be so generous? The young actor even patted Chi Chimiao's shoulder in a serious manner and said in an old-fashioned manner, "If we really want to talk about this, it's all thanks to you. If you weren't still in our crew, how could such a good thing happen? Everyone can't wait to be nice to you. Why would they bother you for no reason?" Chi Chimiao, the director was right, but after hearing what you said, I suddenly wasn't so touched anymore. When Su Yiyin and Hua Chenhuan returned, no one was happier than Uncle Zhang. She had been in the family Hua for decades, so her concern for the future of the family was no less than that of Hua Chenhuan. As a result, Su Yiyin had to face the concern and nagging of two people as soon as he returned. "Young madam is back? I heard that because of your pregnancy, young madam didn't have much of an appetite recently. Is she better now? Is there anything you want to eat? I'll ask the kitchen to make it in a moment." Chapter 685. Young madam, you must be tired after coming back, right? Why don't you go up and rest first? I'll get them to send the food to your room later. Young madam, Uncle Zhang's nagging was even worse than Hua Chenhuan's. Su Yiyin couldn't take it anymore after listening for a while. She turned to Hua Chenhuan for help. Hua Chenhuan, who felt deeply that he had fallen out of favor in this family, smiled at her, indicating that there was nothing he could do to help. Fortunately, Ling Xiaoqi knew that she was coming back today and came to the family Hua right on time. As a result, she saved Su Yiyin from Uncle Zhang's nagging. As soon as Su Yiyin saw Ling Xiaoqi, her eyes lit up. She immediately went forward and held her hand enthusiastically. She smiled and said, "Xiaoqi is here. Uncle Zhang, get the kitchen to prepare some snacks. Xiaoqi likes to eat sweet things." Now that the guest was here, Uncle Zhang naturally had to help greet the guest. He didn't continue nagging Su Yiyin and turned to enter the kitchen. Su Yiyin heaved a sigh of relief, her face full of lingering fear. Ling Xiaoqi looked at this and then at that and was confused. "What's wrong? You missed me so much after being away for 2 months. You thought that you would pounce on me as soon as you saw me. You actually remembered that I like to eat sweet things and specially prepared snacks for me. TSK. I'm indeed your true love." "Bah, don't flatter yourself. My true love is my husband. I was so enthusiastic about you just now because Uncle Zhang is really good at nagging. It's been almost half an hour since I came back. He can't wait to tell me everything from head to toe. My ears are still buzzing. If you came a little later, you might not have seen me." Ling Xiaoqi heard her say this, and a trace of sadness and envy flashed past her eyes. "He also cares about you. Old people always care about children the most. You weren't at home for the first 3 months, so he probably missed you. It wasn't easy for him to wait for you to come back, so how could he not seize the opportunity to miss you?" Su Yiyin sighed. If she didn't know this, she would have run away as soon as Uncle Zhang opened his mouth. Why would she stand there and listen to him talk for so long? "By the way, where's Dun Dun?" Ling Xiaoqi glanced around with a puzzled expression. Usually, when the little guy saw her bringing a Hua Hua over, it would stick to her without asking. Today, it was strange. She had been here for a long time, but she still hadn't seen it. Playing in the back garden. When she had just gotten pregnant, Chenhuan had said that it was not good for pregnant women to carry dogs. This little guy had been holding a grudge ever since. These days, every time we took the initiative to get close to it, it was rejected and unwilling to let us hug it. Su Yin's words were filled with the vicissitudes of a child who had reached the rebellious stage. This little bastard is getting more and more arrogant as he grows up. I wonder who he takes after? Hua Chenhuan, who suddenly met his wife's gaze, was speechless. Why are you looking at me? Although it usually called him dog daddy, this little bastard's genes definitely had nothing to do with him. He wasn't going to take the blame. Ling Xiaoqi's eyes flashed when she heard Su Yin's words. She smiled and said, although these little guys don't know how to speak human language, they're no different from humans after interacting with them for a long time. If you say these things in front of them, they will definitely throw a tantrum. Take our Hua Hua, for example. Occasionally, when I throw a tantrum with it, it will also give me a hard time. If you don't coax it well, it will definitely not let you hug it. Chapter 686. Ling Xiaoqi changed the topic. Let Hua Hua play with it for a while. With Hua Hua around, it might cool down. Su Yin couldn't help but look at Ling Xiaoqi in shock. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. What's with that expression? It's an expression I've seen in my life. Su Yin sighed and said sadly, I don't know who was the one who guarded against our Dundun like it was a thief. She didn't allow it to come within 1 meter of your Hua Hua. How long has it been since then? You actually took the initiative to let Hua Hua play with our Dundun. What's wrong? After 2 months of separation, you, the mother-in-law, have finally thought things through and decided to let this pair of lovebirds be together? Ling Xiaoqi listened to her teasing and her veins throbbed. She gritted her teeth and shouted, Su. Yeah, Yin. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. For the sake of her baby's lifelong happiness, Su Yin stopped while she was ahead. Chenhuan, bring Hua Hua over. That little cub might let you carry it when it sees Hua Hua. Hua Chenhuan thought to herself, I don't want to carry that little bastard. In the 2 months it stayed with the Chung family, the little guy didn't grow anything except a body full of fat. Its little paws were now full of holes. Moreover, old Master Chung would take it out for a walk whenever he felt like it. It would definitely be as heavy as a solid wooden club. However, since his wife had spoken, Hua Chenhuan didn't refuse. She held Hua Hua's hand and walked to the back garden. After Hua Chenhuan left, Ling Xiaoqi relaxed a lot. She moved closer to Su Yin and teased. Aren't you guys too efficient? Didn't your husband officially consummate his marriage after his legs healed? How old is the baby now? It's been 3 months. 3 months? Ling Xiaoqi roughly calculated the time and said, so not long after your husband's leg recovered. TSK, tisk. Ling Xiaoqi didn't say anything explicit, but her teasing eyes were far more embarrassing than any words. Su Yin's face was slightly red, but she still raised her chin and said, jealous. Yes. I'm envious. Su Yin rolled her eyes. Forget it. Let's not talk about me. How have you been? Is there any problem with work? Did anyone in the company make things difficult for you? Work is going well. The people in the company are very nice to me. No one is making things difficult for me. When Ling Xiaoqi first joined the company, she was also worried that the people in the company, especially her boss, would have a problem with her if he knew that she was a person who came in through connections. He would work with other employees to make things difficult for her behind her back. In the beginning, when she went in, her boss wasn't too cold to her, but he wasn't enthusiastic either. Later, after observing her for a period of time and confirming that she really had some ability, his attitude became much better. The colleagues around her also didn't flatter or bully her. They just treated her as an ordinary colleague. Overall, the working atmosphere in the department was very good and the benefits were good. Ling Xiaoqi looked very relaxed when talking about work and colleagues, but then she thought of something and the smile on her face suddenly disappeared. What's wrong? Why do you suddenly look so bad? Ling Xiaoqi opened her mouth, but she seemed to have some concerns and stopped talking. Su Yin was keenly aware that something was wrong. She frowned and said, "What happened? Why can't I tell you? There's no one else here. Tell me quickly." Hearing Su Yin's urging, Ling Xiaoqi pursed her lips for a while and said in a hoarse voice, "That man came to me." Chapter 687. That man? Which man? Su Yin was a little confused. Her first reaction was that when did Ling Xiaoqi have a boyfriend? Why didn't she tell her? But on second thought, since Ling Xiaoqi said so, she must know about this man. Could it be, you mean your blood-related father? When Ling Xiaoqi heard the word father, her little face turned pale and she nodded reluctantly. Su Yin's face darkened. She had tried so hard to prevent it, but Ling Xiaoqi's scumbag father still came looking for her. Why is he looking for you? Does he want to acknowledge you? Yes. Su Yin suppressed the anger in her heart, took a deep breath, and said, "Then what do you think? Do you want to acknowledge him?" Ling Xiaoqi was silent for a moment, but she still shook her head firmly. "I don't want to acknowledge him." Su Yin breathed a sigh of relief. "Since you don't want to acknowledge him, then don't acknowledge him. If he really wanted to look for you, he wouldn't have waited until you've grown up to find you. After all, he was Ling Xiaoqi's biological father. Ling Xiaoqi was qualified to judge his scumbag behavior, but as her friend, she couldn't say too much directly. She only deliberated and said, "No matter what, don't give in first. I'll ask someone to investigate his background and the real purpose of his sudden visit to you. If you don't know anything, you'll be too passive if you face him alone." Ling Xiaoqi's heart warmed. Before this, she was actually very hesitant to tell Su Yin about this matter. After all, this was also a bad debt of their family. Ling Xiaoqi always felt a little guilty and uneasy about involving people indiscriminately. But after hesitating for a few days, she really had no choice. Her mother had passed away, and the only people she was close to now, other than Hua Hua, was Su Yin. Although I don't know his background, he looks very rich and has some power. I'm afraid he's not easy to deal with. Su Yin was startled and quickly realized that Ling Xiaoqi was worried that he would get into trouble if he interfered in her affairs. How rich? Is he as rich as my man? Ling Xiaoqi. How would I know how rich your man is? No, at this time, can you stop flaunting your wealth indiscriminately? Su Yin's words instantly dissipated the tense and serious atmosphere. Su Yin could roughly guess Ling Xiaoqi's concerns. He held her hand tightly and said, "Don't worry about those things. At the very least, there's still my father and my uncles. My family is your family. As long as you don't want to, no one can force you to do something you don't want to do, and no one can bully you." Su Yin's eyes turned cold when he thought of Ling Xiaoqi's ending in his previous life. No matter what, he couldn't let her go back to that cannibalistic family. "Yin Yin." Ling Xiaoqi's eyes reddened. She was touched, and her heart calmed down. All right. Don't agree to the marriage between your Hua Hua and my Dun Dun just because you're touched. This way, we'll be in-laws, and I'll have more power to interfere in your affairs. Go to hell." Ling Xiaoqi held back the tears that were about to fall out of her eyes. She glared at Su Yin angrily. "Why didn't I realize you were so indecent before? You've turned bad after having a man. You've been led astray by that man of yours." Su Yin raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Don't falsely accuse my Chenhuan. I've always been indecent. Ling Xiaoqi, can you be any more righteous? Shameless." Chapter 688. After being interrupted by Su Yin, Ling Xiaoqi's mood was finally less depressed. Su Yin was also able to ask the question in her heart. "Do you know how he found you?" She had tried her best to avoid the key point of Ling Xiaoqi being found, but she still couldn't escape. Speaking of this, Ling Xiaoqi couldn't help but frown. "I'm not too sure. About a week ago, he suddenly appeared with people and said that he was my biological father. I didn't believe it at first and thought that he was a liar. Then he took out a paternity test. Then did he tell you about his family situation and why he abandoned your mother and you? Yes, he said that he only found out about my existence recently. He also said that things were complicated back then and that my mother misunderstood him. He didn't have any feelings for his fiancée, and it was just a business marriage. At that time, he had already made up his mind to break off the engagement with her and marry my mother. He didn't expect my mother to find out about it first and run away without saying a word. Do you believe it? Ling Xiaoqi rolled her eyes. I don't believe it. Su Yiyin narrowed her eyes and chuckled. Why don't you ask him why he didn't look for your mother immediately after she ran away? Is his current wife the same fiancée he had back then? Ling Xiaoqi was stunned and then smiled bitterly. That's not important. Even if what he said was true, it was impossible to make up for the hurt she and her mother had suffered all these years. And if what he said was false, it meant that her mother was right to leave back then. Such a person wasn't worthy of her love, let alone her recognition. From the beginning, she didn't intend to have anything to do with him. Su Yiyin didn't think so. She knew very well that Ling Xiaoqi wasn't a ruthless person. The reason why she insisted on not recognizing that man was because of her mother's life. After a long time, she might be soft-hearted. And once she was soft-hearted, who knew what would happen? One must know that the entire family was not a benevolent bunch. The best way was to let Ling Xiaoqi see the true colors of this family as soon as possible and completely give up on them. The two of them chatted for a while. Ling Xiaoqi could tell that Su Yiyin was still a little tired because she had just returned and was pregnant. After a few more words, she thoughtfully got up and prepared to leave. Ling Xiaoqi followed Su Yiyin to the back garden to look for Hua, but she saw a shameful scene. Caught off guard, the two of them froze for a few seconds at the same time. Then, a scream suddenly rang through the family mansion. Oh, you! Su Yiyin squatted in front of Dun Dun and reached out to poke its head that had been beaten up. She thought about how a certain someone had been so angry that he ran away with Hua. She couldn't help but chuckle. Then, she poked Dun Dun's little head and said with a smile, You deserve it. Although he could understand that absence makes the heart grow fonder, he still dared to act like this when the owner was still outside. This time, his puppy would really have to choose between Dandan and Hua. Dun Dun whined, expressing its grievance. It had been separated from its wife for more than 2 months. Now that they finally met, what was wrong with being affectionate? Sob, sob, sob. His mother-in-law always broke up the two of them. It was really wronged, really miserable. Su Yiyin squatted beside Dun Dun and scolded it a little. Seeing that it was in low spirits and didn't respond, she didn't laugh at it anymore. She instructed Yuan, who was guarding at the side, to keep an eye on it and left. Chapter 689. As soon as Su Yiyin returned to the front yard, she saw Hua Qinhuan walking out of the small kitchen with a bowl of hot porridge in her hand. This porridge was naturally prepared for Su Yiyin. Hua Qinhuan stepped forward, pulled Su Yiyin's hand, and brought her to the dining table. Are you hungry? Have some porridge. Su Yiyin was indeed a little hungry, so she didn't refuse and took the bowl of porridge to drink. When she was almost done, she asked curiously, Where did you go just now? Those 2 dogs are in the garden. Cough, cough, they're making trouble. You didn't see Xiaoqi's expression when she left just now? Ha ha. I know. Su Yiyin blinked with an inexplicable expression. You know? After being stunned for a few seconds, she reacted to Hua Qinhuan's words. You mean, you know that Dun Dun and Xiaoqi? Hua Qinhuan smiled and didn't comment. Then why didn't you separate them? Since this guy knew, maybe he hadn't left when they were doing things, and he could have separated them completely. If it were me, I wouldn't want to be disturbed at this time. Su Yiyin was stunned, and then her little face blushed. She glared at Hua Qinhuan with shame and indignation. Besides, it's normal for them to be like this. Maybe before our baby is born, Dun Dun has already become a dog's father. Su Yiyin, before it became a father, it might be beaten to death by Xiaoqi. I suspect that you are taking revenge on purpose. She knew that Ling Xiaoqi was still in the front yard and might be irritated by this scene at any time, but she didn't stop it. Taking revenge on purpose? Hua Qinhuan raised her eyebrows. Do I have any enmity with it? Of course. The Chung family small courtyard house was not as soundproof as the family Hua's old mansion. Ever since the little rascal had quarreled with them, he had been running to their door every night, scratching and yelling at them. However, every time Hua Chenhuan went out to catch it, this little rascal would run away like a loach, faster than anyone else. Su Yiyin looked at Hua Chenhuan with an aggrieved expression. What good will it do you if our son loses his balls? Hua Chenhuan almost laughed out loud. At least it will be a little more well-behaved and won't be as energetic as it is now. Moreover, after sterilization, its lifespan will be longer. This last sentence accurately hit Su Yiyin's weak spot. After all, the lifespan of a dog could not be compared to that of a human. After raising it for a long time, it was inevitable that there would be feelings. If possible, Su Yiyin also hoped that this little guy could accompany their family for a long time. Hua Chenhuan looked at Su Yiyin's expression and knew that this matter was most likely going to happen. Fortunately, Dun Dun didn't know his dog father's sinister intentions at all. Otherwise, he would definitely curse in his heart. You are so vicious. What did you talk about just now? Nothing, we just talked about each other's recent situation and also Su Yiyin didn't think of hiding it from him. Xiaoqi's biological father came to look for her. Is it the biological father you mentioned before who clearly had a fiancé, but still played with Xiaoqi's mother's feelings and was later kicked away by her mother? These two words could be said to be very intelligent. Su Yiyin's serious expression was instantly replaced by a smile. Yes, it's this scumbag. Why is her father looking for her? Does he want to acknowledge her? Does she want to acknowledge this father? Su Yiyin sighed and said helplessly, What do you think? If she wanted to acknowledge him, she would have gone to look for him long ago. Why would she wait until now? Chapter 690. Hua Chenhuan saw that the corner of Su Yiyin's mouth was stained with porridge and reached out to help her wipe it. Since she doesn't want to acknowledge that person, why do you still look so worried? Isn't this a good thing? It's naturally a good thing that she's open-minded and doesn't want to acknowledge that man. Su Yiyin sighed. But it's precisely because she doesn't want to acknowledge him that it's troublesome. This scumbag suddenly came to find Xiaoqi after such a long time and is in a hurry to acknowledge her as his home. There must be something fishy about this. Xiaoqi is a girl after all. If she angers him, you're worried that they'll use force if they can't persuade her. Su Yiyin lowered her head and stirred the spoon in the bowl. She lowered her eyes and said, Help me check this man's background and his real purpose for suddenly coming to find Xiaoqi. I always feel that he must have other motives for suddenly appearing like this and being so anxious to acknowledge Xiaoqi as his home. Su Yiyin knew very well why this person came. But the reason why she knew so clearly was that she had experienced it personally in her previous life. Now that there was no evidence, she couldn't run to Ling Xiaoqi and tell her that she knew why her scumbag father came to find her. She also knew that once she returned home, her scumbag father's first wife would unite with her family to crazily take revenge on her, so much so that she would end up in a miserable state in the near future. Not to mention whether Ling Xiaoqi believed it or not, those who had a little idea would probably treat her as a lunatic. Okay, I'll help you check. Thank you, dear Mua, Su Yiyin chuckled and took the initiative to kiss Hua Chenhuan. Hua Chenhuan's eyes suddenly became deep. You want to bribe me with this little reward? Then what other reward do you want? Su Yiyin stood up and touched her stomach that wasn't very obvious yet. She looked proud. Humph, I'm already carrying your child in my stomach. I'm just asking you to help me with something. Why do you want this and that? Am I spoiling you too much recently? Hua Chenhuan was amused by her, but he still stood up very cooperatively and said, Yes. My wife is right. You're the most important person in our family now. If there's anything you want me to do, I'll do it. I definitely won't have any objections, and I definitely won't ask for anything in return. Although she said that, Hua Chenhuan still leaned over and kissed her again before saying in a low voice, I'm going to check it out. Wait for my news. Yes. It had to be said that Hua Chenhuan's actions were quite fast. Or it could be said that the things that had happened in the Qin family recently were not a secret to begin with. It only took a little investigation for her to find out. Ling Xiaoqi's biological father was Qin Fangde, the current head of the Qin family in City F. The Qin family's internal affairs were quite complicated, and there were all kinds of complicated relationships. Qin Fangde's position as the head of the Qin family was actually not very stable. Back then, his father, who was the previous head of the Qin family, had raised his son completely by raising poisonous insects. Qin Fangde had 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother. None of them were easy to deal with. At that time, Qin Fangde's position in the family was actually very awkward. In addition, his ability was not outstanding compared to the other brothers. Instead, he became the most neglected and was regarded as the most useless one. No one would have thought that his 3 brothers would fight to the death for the family property. In the end, one of them was disabled and the other 2 died. In the end, it was him, the most inconspicuous one, who took advantage of the situation. However, his brothers were almost no longer a threat, leaving him a bunch of nephews who were covetously eyeing his position as the head of the family, ready to bite off a piece of meat from him at any time. Chapter 691. Especially the 2 sons of his 4th brother, Qin Jinghong. After all, the children of his first 2 brothers had lost their father when they were young, so they didn't have as much confidence as these 2 children. As for his 4th brother, because he was the youngest child in the family, he was very favored by old Master Qin, who was also Qin Fangde's father. He was a strong competitor for the position of family head. Even after he became disabled, he always believed that Qin Fangde stole the position of family head that originally belonged to him, and he always made things difficult for Qin Fangde. Under his influence, his 2 sons naturally thought the same way. They felt that the position of the family head should belong to their father. Qin Jinghong's health wasn't good, so it wasn't a big deal to let Qin Fangde take over for a while. Now that they were all grown up, the position should be returned to their family. This thought reached its peak after Qin Fangde's son, Qin Junwu, died in an accident some time ago. In the past year, he kept making small moves, and he couldn't wait to kick Qin Fangde off the position of family head and replace him. So, the reason why he came to find me is because his only son died, and he wanted me to go back and help him inherit the family business? Ling Xiaoqi thought of many possibilities, but this was the only one that didn't occur to her. But this doesn't make sense. I'm a girl, and although I don't think I'm much worse than a boy, his nephews and the higher-ups in his company obviously don't think so. Even if I really go back with him, based on the current situation, it's useless. Why not? Why not let his first wife or another woman give birth to another son for him? Because he has no choice. No choice. Su Yiyan turned to look at Hua Qinhuan and smiled faintly. The only heir died, and the old people in the family who originally supported him saw that the situation wasn't right, so they quickly sought refuge with other people. Not to mention that he's over 50 now, and his wife is a few years younger than him, so it's not easy for him to have another child. It'll take more than 10 years for this child to really grow up, and Qin Fangde can't wait that long. Ling Xiaoqi frowned. She had to admit that Su Yiyan was right. On the other hand, even if he wants to have another child, he can't. Can't have another child? Ling Xiaoqi was stunned. You mean, it's exactly what you think. Qin Fangde's first wife was the eldest daughter of the D family. The D family was also a prestigious family in City F and was even more prominent than the Qin family at that time. However, Miss D's position in the D family was somewhat awkward. She was the eldest daughter of the D family's family head, but her mother had passed away early and her father had found her a stepmother. This stepmother later gave birth to a boy and a girl. With a younger brother and sister, as the daughter of the first wife, she was naturally not well liked. It was worth mentioning that Miss D had her eyes on Qin Jinghong at that time, and even had a relationship with him. Later, when the Qin brothers died and one was crippled, she immediately abandoned Qin Jinghong and threw herself into Qin Fangde's arms. At that time, Qin Fangde's status was not very stable, so the marriage was inevitable. Although Miss D's status in the D family was somewhat awkward, such a person was easier to control. At that time, Qin Fondo was also very optimistic. He wanted to marry a woman who could help him, provide for her at home, and maintain the harmony between husband and wife. Outside, he could do whatever he wanted. However, he had never expected that Miss D was also a ruthless person. She had known about the existence of Ling Xiaoqi's mother long ago and saw Qin Fondo's character clearly. Chapter 692. It was already like this before the marriage, and it would only get worse after the marriage. Miss D, who knew that there were only 0 and countless times of cheating, was pregnant with a child and confirmed that the child was a boy. She decisively used some small tricks to make Qin Fonda die without anyone knowing. She is too. Ling Xiaoqi was stunned. Sympathize with your scumbag father? Ling Xiaoqi rolled her eyes at Su Yiyan. Sympathize my ass. I can only say that you did a good job. I think so too, Su Yiyan said and looked at Hua Chenhuan meaningfully. Why are you looking at me? Hua Chenhuan held Su Yiyan's hand and pretended to be angry. Do you think I'll be like him? That's hard to say. Su Yiyan snorted. People say that a pregnant husband is the most empty and lonely. Moreover, a lifetime is so long. Who can say for sure? Hua Chenhuan raised her eyebrows. If I really did something wrong to you, what would you do? What do you think? Su Yiyan looked Hua Chenhuan up and down and laughed. I think this Mrs. Qin's way of doing things is quite good. It is worth learning. Hua Chenhuan was not angry. Instead, she said in a good temper, Okay, if you are really angry and want to hit me, I will not fight back. His tone sounded like he was coaxing an unreasonable little girl. Su Yiyan blushed, and her eyes wandered as she said, What a sweet talker. Enough, you two. They were talking about serious matters, but these two people were showing off their love. It was so difficult for a single person like her. Ahem. Su Yiyan coughed softly and went back to the topic. Anyway, this is what happened. This Mrs. Qin probably did not expect that her son would die in an accident when he grew up. Who said it was an accident? When Hua Chenhuan said this, the two people present were shocked. Not an accident? Then, although we haven't found out who did it, it's very likely that it wasn't an accident. The place where Qin Junhua got into the accident was too desolate, and it was late at night. The final conclusion given by the police was that Qin Junhua was drunk and crashed into the guardrail by the side of the mountain path. He fell into the mountain stream and died on the spot. But according to their investigation, Qin Junhua did attend a class gathering that night and got drunk. After that, he rejected his classmate's suggestion to drive him home or find a designated driver and drove to the mountain alone. Although he could still return to his home by taking a detour from the mountain. If he chose this path, he would have to take at least half of the detour. In the middle of the night, he even drank wine and didn't want to go home. Instead, he went for a ride in the mountains. If this young master of the Qin family wasn't so stupid, there must be something that was overlooked. Combined with the mess in the Qin family, Hua Chenhuan couldn't help but think more. When Su Yiyan heard this, the wrinkles between his eyebrows deepened. He originally thought that the first wife of the Qin family was difficult enough to deal with. If this family was stewed in a pot of mess, wouldn't Ling Xiaoqi be eaten alive? After Hua Chenhuan finished speaking, he suddenly turned to look at Ling Xiaoqi and said with a cold expression, The Qin family does have some foundation. Now that you are Qin Fonda's only bloodline, he has nowhere to retreat. If he really wants to bring you home, he will definitely support you with all his might. Do you really not plan to acknowledge him? As long as you acknowledge him, you'll be able to obtain the glory, splendor, wealth, and power that you would never be able to obtain in your entire life. Your destiny will change completely, and the things that you once dreamed of will be within your reach. Are you really not tempted at all? Chapter 693. Hearing Hua Chenhuan's words, the two of them were stunned again. Su Yiyan was the first to react and shouted disapprovingly, Chenhuan. Hua Chenhuan held his hand tightly, but did not give in at all. His eyes were still fixed on Ling Xiaoqi, and no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. After a short moment of surprise, Ling Xiaoqi gradually calmed down. Yes, you're right. As long as I acknowledge him, I can easily obtain everything that ordinary people can only dream of. Wealth, family background, status, everything that I could ever dream of. But so what? These things are really tempting, but they are also troublesome. The most important thing is that they don't belong to me. Ling Xiaoqi looked up at Su Yiyin and his wife as she spoke. She smiled slightly and said, "You just said that the Qin family is very messy. It is so messy that I, an honest person who is used to a dutiful life, can't imagine it. This is undoubtedly dangerous for me, not to mention that my mother's life is at stake." Ling Xiaoqi seemed to feel a little cold when she said this. She subconsciously reached out and hugged herself. If you guessed right, the young master of the Qin family didn't die in an accident. Then, who knows how many people's bones are buried under the tempting things you just said, and how many people's blood is stained. As long as I think about whether these things are also stained with my mother's blood, do you think I can accept his gifts and spend his money with a clear conscience? Hearing her words, Hua Chenhuan's face finally became better. He whispered, "It's good that you can think it through." Hua Chenhuan did not object to Su Yiyin helping Ling Xiaoqi, but before that, Ling Xiaoqi had to give them a clear attitude. He did not want his wife to care about others' safety during her pregnancy and try her best to seek a chance of survival for others. In the end, she was in a difficult position and was resented by others. Since you have made a decision, you should be mentally prepared. You can be said to be Qin Fangda's only life-saving straw now. He won't let you go easily. Moreover, you have to know that Qin Fangda came looking for you to bring you home and make you a tool for his new round of family struggles. We can't keep this a secret. It won't be long before Mrs. Qin and his nephews hear about it. At that time, even if you don't agree to go back with him, they won't let you off easily. Ling Xiaoqi's expression changed slightly, and Su Yiyin's heart skipped a beat. Even Qin Fangda's brothers, who grew up together, could fight to the death, dying or being injured. Not to mention Ling Xiaoqi, who had led a wandering life since childhood and had no feelings for them, but was a stranger who could threaten their interests. If what Hua Chenhuan said was true, in the end, Ling Xiaoqi would be attacked from both sides and be in a dilemma. After Hua Chenhuan's reminder, Su Yiyin thought of another aspect. Maybe Qin Fangda knows this, so he swaggers over to find you. When Ling Xiaoqi heard her say this, her face became even uglier. No matter what, I won't acknowledge him, let alone go back to the Qin family with him. Su Yiyin turned to look at Hua Chenhuan questioningly. Hua Chenhuan understood. I'm afraid Qin Fangda will often look for you recently. It's not safe for a girl like you to be alone. I'll send someone to protect you secretly and won't affect your daily life and work. Ling Xiaoqi knew that Hua Chenhuan was helping her for Su Yiyin's sake. They were not friends, so she said gratefully, "Thank you." Chapter 694. Seeing that Hua Chenhuan was willing to send someone to protect her, Su Yiyin was relieved. Immediately, he seemed to think of something and frowned. You should be alert. Chenhuan's people will try to stop them and not let them get close to you. But after a long time, they may bribe others to get close to you. And after knowing your character and knowing that you are amenable to persuasion but not coercion, they may use other means to shake you. Ling Xiaoqi blinked blankly. For example, honey trap. Ling Xiaoqi, Hua Chenhuan. After a suffocating silence, Ling Xiaoqi asked Su Yiyin angrily and amusedly, "In your eyes, am I such a person who is easily confused by beauty? Aren't you?" Su Yiyin stared at her and said straightforwardly, "Do you dare to say that you are not a beauty lover?" Ling Xiaoqi choked. She really couldn't say no. Look, if Qin Fangda had bribed Hong Hui, he would have taken the initiative to approach you, sweet-talk you, be considerate, and even personally cook 3 meals for you every day, and pick you up on time to and from work. Hong Hui was one of the 2 pillars of Dongsheng City before Luo Weibing entered the city. Ling Xiaoqi was a groupie, but she was the most unstable groupie. Basically, she could change her husband after watching a TV series or a variety show. According to her, She couldn't give up a whole forest for grass. The whole entertainment circle was her forest. As long as she wanted, she could call him her husband everywhere, limited to her mouth. Honghui happened to be her husband recently, just because he had just released a new album, and Ling Xiaoqi liked it very much. After listening to Su Yiyin's description, Ling Xiaoqi's heart began to shake. Such a honey trap seemed to be acceptable. No, no, no. You still underestimate me if you want to bribe me like this. You know, most of the stars sell their characters. They can only be seen from a distance and can't be approached. Am I in love with him? No, no, no. I only love his persona. If he really walked down the altar and came to my side, I don't know how I would be disillusioned. How could it be corroded by his sugar-coated bullets? However, if I find all the husbands that I used to be a fan of, I might be a little tempted. Su Yiyin, you even brought all the husbands here, big and small. Do you think you're collecting stamps? I didn't expect you to be like this. Ling Xiaoqi met Su Yiyin's sad eyes and couldn't help but laugh. She got up and sat beside her, holding her other hand and saying, I know what you're worried about. I'm not stupid. Back then, he was able to stabilize his position through marriage. Now that he wants to recognize a girl like me, the best way is to marry into another big family. In order to obtain something that could move one's heart, one had to pay something else first, such as conscience, friendship, love, and marriage. Su Yiyin was stunned. She didn't expect Ling Xiaoqi to see through it so thoroughly. In her previous life, Qin Fonda had indeed done this. Not long after Ling Xiaoqi was brought home by him, he held a grand banquet and invited all the young talents who were about the same age as Ling Xiaoqi to his house. On the surface, it was to celebrate finding his long-lost daughter, but in reality, it was to find a suitable blind date for Ling Xiaoqi. And this act precisely poked at Mrs. Qin's sensitive heart after losing her son, making her hate Ling Xiaoqi to the core. She did a lot of evil things to kill her. Chapter 695. It could be said that although Mrs. Qin was the one who killed Ling Xiaoqi in her past life, Qin Fonda was the one who pushed her all the way to hell. Both husband and wife were equally detestable. Compared to Mrs. Qin, Qin Fonda was even more disgusting. Su Yiyin opened her mouth and was about to say something to comfort Ling Xiaoqi when a hand reached over and pried her hand away from Ling Xiaoqi's. Don't touch me. Su Yiyin, Ling Xiaoqi. A few seconds later, Su Yiyin rolled her eyes helplessly. You're even jealous of a girl. Hua Chenhuan stared at her seriously as if to say, men and women are the same. As long as it's a human, I'll be jealous. No, even if it wasn't a human, he would still be jealous. Su Yiyin was convinced by his shamelessness. Ling Xiaoqi couldn't help but roll her eyes. Can't you give a single dog a way out? Sob, sob, sob. As expected, once you have a new lover, you don't want the old one anymore. It's so hard on me. The reason why the old one can't compare to the new one is because the new one is too outstanding. You should reflect on yourself and work hard to become better. Who knows, maybe one day I'll change my mind and visit you again. Ling Xiaoqi's mouth twitched. What kind of scumbag quote is that? Why didn't I realize you were such a scumbag before? Su Yiyin chuckled. It's not too late for you to find out now. Ling Xiaoqi rolled her eyes and looked around. Where's your stupid dog? It's in the backyard with Yuan Yuan. Su Yiyin sharply sensed that something was wrong and probed. Why are you looking for it? A few days ago, wasn't it still yelling at it, wanting to kill it so badly that it wanted to kill it? Don't tell me you want to... I want... Ling Xiaoqi got angry at the mention of it. Unfortunately, it's responsible for my Hua Hua. Take responsibility? That little bastard of yours made our Hua Hua pregnant. Don't you think it should take responsibility? Su Yiyin. When Ling Xiaoqi said this, not only Su Yiyin, but even Hua Chenhuan, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but reveal a dazed expression. Hua Hua's pregnant? Su Yiyin was stunned for a few seconds, then suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha! Ha ha! Good job. You've learned how to cook rice. You're more promising than your dog father. Hua dog daddy Chenhuan was speechless. He felt the need to let his wife know who was more promising. You. Ling Xiaoqi's face turned red. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. It's because of an owner like you that this dog was raised. I don't care. You and have to give me an explanation today. What explanation? Ling Xiaoqi said expressionlessly. Her words were enough to make Dundon's balls turn cold. Sterilization. Su Yiyin blinked. She couldn't bear to see it. That's too cruel. It's fine if you don't want to do it. When Hua Hua gives birth, you'll have nothing to do with it, whether you give it to her or raise it yourself. Su Yin's eyes narrowed. She said without thinking, do it right now. You can do whatever you want. I have no objections. Although she had expected this, Ling Xiaoqi was still stunned by Su Yin's heartlessness. She really was his biological mother. Hua Chenhuan, who had witnessed her son being sold off, was speechless. Although she was happy to see this, she didn't know why she felt a chill down her spine. When the child was born, would he end up like this? It was terrifying to think about it. Chapter 696. Poor Dun Dun still didn't know that it had finally gotten its wish to impregnate its wife, but it was already sold by its master. It was inconvenient for Su Yiyin to be pregnant. Of course, Dun Dun's sterilization was taken by Hua Chenhuan. Before leaving, Su Yiyin also gave some encouragement and comfort in advance to Dun Dun, who didn't know what he was about to experience. Be good. For your wife and your future baby, you have to pay a price. If you're a man, oh no, a male dog, you have to take the responsibility of protecting your family. This is your responsibility and your obligation. It's just a small operation. Just bear with it. Su Yiyin rubbed her dog's chubby body and couldn't bear it. As long as you bear with it this time, Xiaoqi won't stop you from meeting Hua Hua in the future. Bear with it for a while, and you'll be calm. Take a step back, and you will see the world. Doing this is not completely without benefits, right? Dun Dun was dumbfounded. What price? What small operation? What bear with it? What exactly happened? But the little guy understood the sentence, won't stop you from meeting Hua Hua in the future, and barked a few times happily. Hua Chenhuan, who knew what this silly dog was about to face, glanced at her dog son sympathetically. He was so stupid. Fortunately, he was a dog. Otherwise, he might have to help others count the money after being sold. Su Yiyin reluctantly watched Hua Chenhuan take Dun Dun away. At the same time, Xia Junxing also sent the confirmed cast list of Red Beauty to Su Yiyin. The male and female leads were famous actors in the industry, especially the female lead, Jiang Rui, who could be said to be the national goddess. These two people couldn't be invited by the current Dongxing city alone. They were most likely Luo Baoging's connections. Moreover, Luo Baoging had already said in advance that the female lead had to learn the basic skills from his wife for half a year during the shooting process. How could those actors, who were scheduled for 1 or 2 years later and wished to split a day into 2 days, forget about this matter when they were filming? With Jiang Rui's current status, what she lacked was no longer resources, but a good script and a good team to maintain her divinity and popularity. Only then did she have the time and confidence to slowly grind with the production team. Seeing the names of the male and female lead, Su Yiyin couldn't help laughing. Sure enough, I was right to spend so much effort to find Luo Baoging. Not only did I get a powerful consultant, I even got so many big shots now. This is no longer a buy one get one free situation, but a buy one get one free situation. Su Yiyin was the boss of E-City and a businesswoman. Red Beauty was an important part of Dongxing City's IP plan. If this part could be successful, the subsequent investment funds could be recovered on a large scale. With a little push, it could create a virtuous cycle. At that time, they would have the final say on how to create stars and how to create opportunities for their subordinates. Now that Luo Baoging had attracted so many veteran actors for her, the director's team was in place, and the popularity of the topic was already on the way. All in all, the timing, location, and people were in the right place. All that was left was a little bit of luck. In addition to the male and female lead, most of the important supporting roles were low-key and down-to-earth, but well-known actors. Basically, there were no empty vases. Many artists in Su Yin's company were confirmed to be in the cast after the audition, but most of them didn't play important roles with a lot of scenes. Chapter 697. No one was dissatisfied with this. This show was led by Luo Baogang, and there were so many big shots in the production team. Whether they could afford to offend them or not was one thing. Working with so many big shots and seniors, even if it was just a small supporting role, they could boast about it to their friends for 10 years. Moreover, since they had already decided to be actors, practicing their acting skills was the basic skill of an actor. It was easy to enter a small production team and become the main lead or an important supporting role, but it was rare to see a veteran actor perform up close. This was much better than hundreds of theory classes taught by their acting teachers. Su Yin scrolled down and saw a surprisingly familiar name on the list of actors. Yu Sure. Su Yin thought that after the injury on the show, this person had already terminated her contract with the company and returned to be the second daughter of the Yu family. She did not expect. Yu Sure didn't terminate her contract with our company? Xia Junsheng was not surprised that Su Yin would ask about this. He answered truthfully, no, she came back after her injury was healed. She never mentioned terminating the contract. How long does her contract last? She signed a 3-year contract. There's still about a year left. Su Yin pondered. She wants to be an actress? Yes, I've talked to her manager. Compared to being an idol, a singer, she seems to be more interested in acting. It was normal for the company's artists to change careers, but logically speaking, it shouldn't be so early. After all, the initial investment to nurture an artist was not small. If they changed their direction rashly, not only would it be a waste of time, but the initial investment would also be wasted. Therefore, Xia Junsheng did not agree with it when he heard about it. However, Guyan did not say anything, because Yu Sure was the second daughter of the Yu family. He let her be. Oh right. Xia Junsheng suddenly thought of something else and mentioned, this time, we've temporarily selected 2 songs for the soundtrack in Dancing Red. They'll be sung by Hong Hui and Yin Luoshan for the time being. Yin Luoshan? Su Yin felt that this name was familiar. After thinking about it carefully, she finally remembered that this was the pitiful girl who was almost removed from the show by Wen Jingping. Later, because of Yu Sure, she was able to return to the show. This pitiful little girl was young and shy, but she had some backbone. After Yu Sure withdrew from the show due to her injury, she rushed into the final group of people with all her might. Furthermore, it was said that she had caused a lot of trouble for Wen Jingping during the recording of the later episodes. Su Yin's impression of her was still that of a certain someone who was trembling like a little white rabbit when they first met. Later, when he heard about her heroic deeds in the program, he couldn't help but sigh. When a rabbit is anxious, it will bite. Now that Xia Junsheng mentioned this person, Su Yin naturally recalled how Yu Sure had stood up for her. Now, the 2 of them were in the same production team. One of them was an actress, while the other was in charge of singing the songs. She didn't believe that it was a coincidence. Yin Luoshan and Hong Hui, this gap is a bit big. Logically speaking, with Yin Luoshan's current status, she shouldn't be able to sing this song with Hong Hui. But the key is that this song was written by her. She wrote it herself. Yes, she wrote the lyrics and music. Of course, the company's vocal music teacher also helped to modify it, but she still wrote it herself. Only then did Su Yin remember that when Yin Luoshan participated in the show, her ranking was lower because her singing and dancing were weaker than the others, but she was very talented in songwriting. Chapter 698. Su Yin nodded. She had no objections to this arrangement. She changed the topic back to Yu Sure. Did Yu Sure learn anything related to this before? She studied with the company's teacher for 2 months before auditioning for Red Brave. She's quite hardworking. She has great potential to be able to learn so much in 2 months. Su Yin flipped through the list and confirmed that Yu Sure was auditioning for the role of the 5th female lead. Although it was just a supporting role, it won in terms of character design. If she could really act it well, she might be able to make people's eyes light up. Most importantly, it was not easy for a greenhorn like her to be able to squeeze into this group of big shots. Get someone to pay attention to her. Wait until Red Brave finishes filming. If she really has the potential in this area, we can focus on training her. Although Dongqing City was developing well, Shwek Highway was the only female artist who could really hold up the scene. The rest were either capable but lacking opportunities, or lucky but not capable enough. It was not a bad thing to train more newcomers and provide fresh blood to the company. It's just that this 3-year contract is too short. Think about it and renew the contract with her as soon as possible after this drama is finished. Okay, after dealing with some company matters remotely, Hui Chenhuan returned with Dun Dun. Dun Dun, who had just completed a major life event in a daze, came back with dull eyes and tongue hanging out. The dog was carried in Hui Chenhuan's arms as if it had lost the whole world. You're back. How was it? Did everything go well? Did it cause a ruckus? Hui Chenhuan lied through his teeth without batting an eyelid. I'm fine. Actually, it did cause a ruckus, and it caused a huge ruckus. Before the little guy went to the operating table, it seemed to have finally realized that it had entered a wolf's den. It ran and jumped up and down, causing needles and dog hair to fly everywhere in the pet hospital. It was not easy to catch it and press it on the operating table for the surgery. The dog's barking was so earth-shattering that it scared the other pets in the hospital and almost caused a large-scale pet riot. Of course, Hui Chenhuan would never tell Su Yiyin about this. This silly dog is very silly, but it was very cooperative the entire time. Dun Dun whined weakly, as if it was complaining that its father was lying. Dun Dun did not cooperate at all. It did not want to do this crazy surgery at all. It was forced to do it. Dun Dun couldn't help but feel sorrowful when he thought of what he had experienced in the hospital. 2 tears rolled down his cheeks miserably. Su Yiyin felt bad seeing it like this. He reached out to stroke its fur and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Sooner or later, we'll have to go through this. Fortunately, Hua already has a little baby. In a few days, I'll get Xiaoqi to bring her over and let you guys meet." Su Yiyin's original intention was to use Hua to comfort Dun Dun, but she didn't expect Dun Dun to be even more disappointed after hearing her words. How could it meet its wife like this? How shameful. The sad little guy lowered his head and drilled into his nest. He raised his hand to cover his head and completely closed himself off. Hui Chenhuan saw that Su Yiyin was worried and comforted her. I asked the doctor. It's normal to be like this for a week or 2 after sterilization. Just take care of it. After 2 weeks, it will be full of energy again. Alas, I hope so. In order to divert Su Yiyin's attention, Hui Chenhuan's eyes flashed slightly. She took the initiative to say, I just heard an interesting thing on the way. Chapter 699. Su Yiyin looked up at him. What's so interesting? It's related to Hua Xiaofeng. Hua Xiaofeng. Su Yiyin suddenly became interested. What did he do this time? Hua Qian brazenly brought home his mistress. Mrs. Hua was so angry that she fought with him. In the chaos, Hua Xiaofeng pushed the mistress. Su Yiyin was stunned and asked tentatively, "The child is gone?" Yes. Hua Xiaofeng had experienced both career and love. Although he had grown up, his character was not so easy to change. Hua Xiaofeng was not a kind person. No matter how much he told himself to endure, he could not really do it when it came to it. In addition, he did not have a good impression of Xue Xiaofeng and the child in her belly that was about to threaten him. Naturally, he did not hold back. It was hard to say whether he did it on purpose or not. Her child is already 5 months old, right? Yes. Hui Chenhuan saw Su Yiyin's strange expression and regretted telling her this. Su Yiyin quickly adjusted. She was pregnant now, so she felt a little uncomfortable when she heard this. But she also understood that even if the child was born, his identity would not be too glorious. It was very likely that he would become a tool for his mother to fight for power. She just pitied the child. He could not choose the family he was born into, and he could not even decide whether he could be born safely. Hui Qihan must be mad. Yes. What Hua Chenhuan did not say was that the 5-month-old child had already taken shape. It was a boy. Hua Qihan had cheated on his wife to give birth to another heir. Now, he finally saw some hope, but it was destroyed again. Hua Qihan had always wanted to divorce his wife and help the mistress to take over the family. He wanted to give the child a legitimate identity. Now that the child is gone, he wants a divorce even more. In this way, he could find a young woman to give birth to his child in the future. He did not have to worry about the recurrence of the past. Mrs. Hua doesn't agree to the divorce. Family Hua and her son may be stupid, but they are also selfish. They know very well what kind of difficult situation they will face if they divorce. Hua Chenhuan sneered as if she had already expected this. If Hua Xiaofeng was still in the Hua Corporation, then so be it. Unfortunately, he's already been chased out, and in such an embarrassing way. At this time, if Mrs. Hua agreed to divorce Hua Qihan, there would be no place for the two of them in the family Hua. Hua Xiaofeng was not an easy person to get along with. He had offended many people in secret. Previously, he was still the heir of the family Hua. No matter how dissatisfied those people were, they did not dare to offend him. However, if he was chased out of the house and lost his backing, he didn't know how many people would kick him when he was down. Mrs. Hua didn't agree, but Hua Qihan was determined to get a divorce this time. He even threatened them. Threatened what? He threatened that if they didn't agree to the divorce, he would sue Hua Xiaofeng. Sue Hua Xiaofeng? Su Yiyin was shocked. People said that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. However, this sentence obviously did not apply to their family. No matter what, the mistress miscarried because Hua Xiaofeng pushed her. If it's not too serious, it's an accident. If it's serious, it's intentional injury. He wants Hua Xiaofeng to go to jail. He's just scaring them. If this matter gets out, Hua Qihan will be the one to lose face. Chapter 700. Su Yiyin chuckled. He's already married his mistress. Is he still afraid of being embarrassed? Hua Chenhuan choked and shook her head helplessly. After all, he's only making trouble in his own home. If she really sues Hua Xiaofeng, it'll be a public scene. It'll be a hot topic, and everyone will know about it. He cares about his reputation and won't do that. Su Yiyin curled her lips. People always like to deceive themselves. She knew that what she did was shameless, but she still thought that as long as she hid it well, no one would know or say anything. Hua Chenhuan was amused by her pretending to be mature and reached out to pinch her little nose. Su Yiyin grabbed his hand and said with a smile, "So they're really going to get a divorce this time?" "Not necessarily." Su Yiyin blinked and looked puzzled. She had long seen that Mrs. Hua was a person who bowed to the powerful and stepped on the weak. She bullied the weak and feared the strong. Hua Xiaofeng must have brainwashed her a lot behind her back to be able to persist until now. Now that Hua Xiaofeng was in trouble, could Mrs. Hua really continue to persist? As I said just now, Hua Xiaofeng's case can be considered as intentional injury if it's serious, but it can also be considered as an accident if it's not serious. At that time, they were fighting, so it's normal for them to push each other. Su Yiyin immediately understood what Hua Chenhuan meant. An unborn fetus was different from a born baby. If a born baby was killed, it was intentional murder. If an unborn fetus was caused to miscarry, it was considered intentional injury at most. It was the same crime as hitting someone and causing serious injury. Moreover, at that time, everyone was noisy and the scene was chaotic. No one could tell whether he did it on purpose or accidentally. If Hua Qihan really wanted to pursue Hua Xiaofeng's responsibility, Hua Xiaofeng could also hire a lawyer to help them defend unintentional injury. From a legal point of view, Xue Xiao was a pregnant woman, so she belonged to the disadvantaged group. However, from a moral point of view, Mrs. Hua and Hua Xiaofeng were the first wife and the first wife's son who were bullied by a mistress. They also belonged to the disadvantaged group. As long as the lawyer was capable enough, Hua Xiaofeng and his mother might not really get into trouble. That may be the case, but would Hua Xiaofeng and Mrs. Hua be able to think of this? The mother and son pair were obviously spoiled and did not seem to have enough brains. If they can't think of it, we can find someone to remind them. Su Yiyin looked surprised. You want to help them? To be precise, it's to annoy Hua Qihan. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. There is no such thing as eternal benefits, and no such thing as eternal friends. For some people, even Hua Qihan felt that it would dirty their hands to deal with them. The best way was to let them fight each other. Don't you think it's a rare pastime to watch them fight back in their nest? Su Yiyin, evil, too evil. But why did it feel so good? You're right. It should be like this. Su Yiyin rolled her eyes and said with a smile, How's the mistress? The child is already so big. The abortion should be very harmful to her health, right? It's definitely harmful to her health. But she was lucky to be sent to the hospital in time. Her life is not in danger. It's not impossible to have another child in the future. Even so, he had lost a healthy son who could have been his biggest bargaining chip to ascend to the top. Even if there were no more serious sequelae, she was afraid that it would not be so easy to swallow. Shuexiao was really mad at this time. A serious opportunity to be promoted was in front of her, but it was ruined by that little bastard. Chapter 701. Xue Xiaoyu wanted to stab Hua Xiaofeng to death with a knife, but she also knew that if she acted too unreasonable at this time, she would lose Hua Qihan's favor. The reason why Xue Xiaoyu was able to quickly rise to the top and capture Hua Qihan's heart in a few months and let him take her home regardless of the consequences. In addition to Hua Xiaofeng and his mother, she knew very well that her position was also an important reason. Hua Qihan liked her for sure, but this man's love for her was largely based on the child. Now that the child was gone, Hua Qihan vented his anger on Hua Xiaofeng and his mother. But if she also acted unreasonable at this time and insisted on Hua Qihan giving her an explanation, it would make Hua Qihan transfer his anger to her. There were many people who could bear children for him. Now that Xue Xiaoyu had no child to rely on, she could not lose his favor. As for the revenge for the child, Xue Xiaoyu's eyes flashed with cold light, and her pale face could not help showing some hatred. At this moment, the door of the ward was opened with a click. Xue Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment and quickly changed her facial expression. She lowered her head slightly and looked sad. Hua Qihan entered the ward and saw such a scene. The woman lying on the bed looked haggard and pale, and her eyebrows were full of melancholy, which could easily arouse a man's desire to protect her. Xiao Ruo, Xue Xiaoyu seemed to wake up from a dream. She forced a smile and said, Brother Hua, you are here. How do you feel? I'm fine. Xue Xiaoyu choked with sobs and said first in a low voice, It's my fault. I didn't protect our child well. This sentence of taking a step back in order to advance successfully poked Hua Qihan's heart, making him feel more pity for Xue Xiaoyu, and his hatred for Hua Xiaofeng and his mother increased. Hua Qihan stepped forward and hugged Xue Xiaoyu, comforting her in a low voice, It's not your fault. I shouldn't have taken you back in such a hurry. I should have waited until the divorce was over and chased those two cheese out before bringing you and your mother back. I wasn't considerate enough. Xue Xiao leaned in Hua Qihan's arms and grabbed his clothes. She defended him softly. No, Brother Hua, don't say that. I know you want to give me and the child a good living environment so that the child can grow up better. Now that the child is gone, it's not what you wanted. Brother Hua, don't blame yourself too much. You just didn't expect young master to do such a thing. Hua Qihan was very touched after hearing this. She was the one who had been hurt, but she comforted him instead. She was always so gentle, considerate. She was completely different from his stupid wife. Hua Qihan had completely forgotten that the biggest reason why he brought Xue Xiaolin home was that his divorce with Mrs. Hua had not gone well in the past few months. He was so angry that he thought of bringing her home to discuss the mother and son at home. You don't want a divorce, do you? Okay, from now on, the mistress of the house will be changed. The legal wife and the mistress will live under the same roof. You can keep my body, but you can't keep my heart. Let's see who can outlast the other. However, Hua Qihan had never expected that Hua Xiaofeng would so blatantly hurt Xue Xiaoyu and cause her to lose her child. Hua Qihan was so furious. On the one hand, his son, whom he had been looking forward to for months, was gone. On the other hand, he felt that Hua Xiaofeng had grown up and did not take him seriously. At this moment, Hua Qihan's disgust for Hua Xiaofeng almost reached its peak. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.